I discovered my wife cheating and my daughter helping her cover it up after 30 years together. Sitting at my desk, I reminisced about the 30 years since our wedding, recalling our honeymoon and the fondest memories of my life. Reflecting on our cherished time in Hawaii with Maggie fills me with deep nostalgia and gratitude. It was an extraordinary, magical experience that will always hold a special place in my heart. From the start, it felt like we had stepped into an enchanted realm, washing away all worldly concerns and leaving a serene tranquility. Walking hand in hand along Waikiki's pristine beaches, with gentle waves kissing our feet, we were captivated by the beauty around us. The fragrant scent of plumeria lingered in the air, a constant reminder of the romance and peace that surrounded us. Our honeymoon wasn't just about the breathtaking landscapes. It was the shared experiences that etched themselves into our souls. Exploring lush rainforests and discovering hidden waterfalls revealed the majesty of nature. Standing together, we marveled at the raw power and beauty around us. Our clifftop villa in Maui offered endless panoramic views. Every sunset was a masterpiece, painting the sky in vibrant hues. In those precious moments as we held each other close, our hearts overflowed with love and devotion. The nights were filled with romance, starting with candlelit dinners on the beach under a canopy of stars, savoring fresh seafood and island delicacies. But it was Maggie's tender gaze that truly made those evenings magical. Hawaii wasn't just a destination, it became the embodiment of our love story, filled with cherished memories and shared dreams. Thinking back on our honeymoon, I relived the beauty and depth of our connection. Hawaii fueled our love, strengthening our bond and bringing us unparalleled joy and peace. I'm sincerely grateful for the precious memories we created in that romantic oasis. Lost in thought, my secretary interrupted, noticing my good mood. She jokingly asked if I'd won the lottery. I explained that my wife had been especially attentive lately, making me feel appreciated and loved. After years, it felt like a second honeymoon, and for the first time in years, I couldn't wait to be with her and couldn't stop thinking about her. For the past 2 weeks, I've called Maggie several times a day just to hear her voice, feeling like a lovesick teenager, but I didn't mind. I was happy again, and I didn't want it to end. Maggie and I share a sturdy marriage, yet over 30 years, the spark can dwindle into routine. However, these past 2 weeks have been different. Maggie's been playful, eager for closeness almost every night, and reviving past gestures. I never doubted this surge in affection is anything but a rejuvenation of our bond. Excitedly, I left work early, planning a romantic surprise for her. I bought 24 roses, penned a heartfelt note, picked up her favorite wine and a box of chocolate-covered cherries. Tonight, along with professing my love, I'll unveil the 7-night cruise I booked in celebration of our love. With a grin, I returned home through the garage, brimming with anticipation. Climbing the kitchen steps instead of finding my beloved wife, Maggie, I discovered our daughter, Brandy, 29, at the table. Greeting her with a kiss on the forehead, I asked, "Hey there, where's Mom?" Just 2 weeks ago, they had a significant conversation. "Brandy, I'm not sure about this," Maggie confessed. "I love your dad very much, and I'm afraid that if I go through with this, I'll hurt him." "Mom, Dad loves you and he will understand," Brandy reassured. "You yourself said that you need something more than what you received before, and Dad is not getting any younger. I know that he will understand your needs and allow you to have this one-time pleasure." "Brandy, there's no way I can stand in front of your father and tell him I'm on a date with another man." "I just can't do it," Maggie insisted. "Then let me do it," Brandy offered. "Alexander will be waiting for you at the restaurant at 7 in the evening and you will be ready to leave by 6. When Dad gets home, I'll be here and explain everything to him, and you'll get the experience you crave." "Honey, yes, I agreed to this date, but I have doubts. This is wrong, and I shouldn't go. How will I be able to look your father in the eye for the next 2 weeks, knowing that I agreed to go on a date with another man?" Maggie expressed her concerns. "Well, I can suggest that you don't tell him anything. But during these 2 weeks, show him how much you love him. Let him know that he has nothing to worry about. And when I explain everything, he will understand that what you are doing is not about love, but only about new friendships and a little fun. Love him, reach out to him, and rock his world. When I explain the situation that evening, he will welcome you back with open arms. Believe me, Dad loves you and is ready to do anything for you. He always gave you what you wanted, just like that," Brandy advised. "Showing his love for you, Mom. Probably yes, and maybe you're right. Well, I mean, it's just one date, and it doesn't mean I'm leaving your father for another man. Having a fun night out 30 years later shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to show your dad how wonderful he is, and how much I love him every night until date night. And then when I get back to him, I'm going to try to make him the happiest man in the world," Maggie resolved. "Mom, just make him feel loved and appreciated. He is a great guy and will give you this one-of-a-kind experience. Now I have to get home to cook dinner for Mike. Thanks, baby. And say hi to Mike. When will you two give us grandchildren? Brandy asked. Soon. We've already talked and planned to start working on it in a few months, Brandy replied before heading home. Maggie sat alone in the art studio Jason had built for her behind their house, in front of his latest project. Lately, she had been having difficulty being creative because the thought of being with another man weighed heavily on her. Guilt blocked her creativity until Maggie remembered Brandy's words, and suddenly her brushes came to life, covering the canvas with vibrant colors and emotional landscapes. Suddenly, she felt confident that she was doing the right thing for herself and that her husband would give her this experience. She found herself talking to herself as she sat alone, feeling peace overcome her guilt. Jason may be angry at first, but I know I can make him understand. I truly love this man, and he was such a wonderful husband and father. I will be the best wife and show him how much I love him. On the initial night of my love-boosting plan, I slipped into his favorite baby doll nightgown post-shower, fixed my hair, and spent time on my makeup. Meeting Jason at the door in the nightgown and heels, I whisked him to the bedroom, undressing him and surprising him with a long-forgotten pleasure below the belt. Eagerly, his smile filled me with warmth, and I pondered why I hadn't done this sooner. His embrace and words of love sealed the moment. Maggie, that was the best homecoming in ages. What prompted it? Jason inquired. I just wanted to show you how special you are and how much I love you. Did you enjoy it? I asked. I did. It's been too long, I forgot how much I missed it. I felt content, he replied, pulling me onto the bed for passionate kisses. It was the best closeness we'd had in years, leading me to reconsider my date plans with Alexander. Over the ensuing weeks, our closeness soared and Jason transformed. He was more joyful, affectionate, and engaging, reigniting our bond. I found myself happier than I'd been in ages and reconsidered my date night plans, even confiding in Brandy about the change. Maybe I didn't need that experience anymore as Dad and I found our spark again. This is wonderful, Mom, but hold off on canceling just yet. Let's see how the next 2 weeks unfold. Enjoy each other and reevaluate later. You can always cancel last minute and Alexander will understand. But remember, this opportunity might not come again, Brandy advised. Okay, maybe you're right. Tell me more about Alexander. I recall he's your friend's father, but refresh my memory about his situation, I requested. Sure, Mom. When his wife Mary was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor, Alexander dedicated himself to her until her passing. He became a recluse afterward, battling depression and loneliness. He struggled with the idea of dating again, feeling lost without Mary, Brandy explained. As I listened to his story, I realized I might have a solution for both of you. Brandy continued, I told him about your enduring love for Dad and your desire to rejuvenate your relationship. We discussed the idea of a date, not for a long-term romance, but to explore friendship and perhaps more without abandoning Dad. When he laid eyes on your photo, his face lit up. He grinned and questioned, do I really have a chance to take her out? Here's our chat, Mr. Connor. I promise, once I show Mom your picture and tell her about you, she won't pass up this opportunity. But she's a bit older than you. Will that be an issue? Not at all, as long as she looks the same. I'd love to spend time with her. What about your dad? Will he be okay with her dating me? After all, she's his wife. Like I said, leave it to me. Dad will do anything to make Mom happy, and she needs it just as much as you do. I think you two can support each other and become good friends. Trust me, I'll handle everything. I'll talk to her, and if she's on board, I'll give you her number. Then you can plan a date and spend the night together. Night? What do you mean, Mr. Connor? You're both adults, you both crave companionship. Get creative and plan an evening and night together. So he finds you attractive and wants to spend the night with you. If you're interested, I'll give him your cell number and tell him to call you during the day. He seems really nice, and he's about 10 years younger than you. I know you'll be happy. He just needs someone to talk to and be friends with, and I believe you two can help each other. The following day, Alexander phoned Maggie, and after a delightful chat, he asked her to be his companion and spend the night with him. His compliments about her photo and the prospect of a date made her feel giddy, like a schoolgirl. The thrill of something new and his playful banter gave her butterflies. She accepted the date eagerly, expressing her anticipation. While he offered to pick her up, she preferred to meet at the restaurant. They exchanged texts daily, their flirtation escalating as their date night drew near. On the eve of their rendezvous, Maggie's texts would have failed any fidelity test. She was consumed with excitement, envisioning the evening ahead. Despite her thoughts of Jason, she poured more energy into their lovemaking every night. Jason sported a perpetual grin, while Maggie harbored an insatiable craving for closeness, reaching a level of fulfillment exceeding her wildest dreams. I cherish my daughter, viewing her as the epitome of beauty, proud of her evolution into the woman she is today. I lamented not spending more time with her during her formative years. Nevertheless, I toiled to provide them with a good life and endeavored to be there for her as much as possible. Upon spotting her, I greeted her with a smile tinged with embarrassment. "Darling, what brings you here and where's your mother?" I inquired, placing 24 roses, a bottle of wine, and a box of chocolates on the table. "I have a special surprise for your mom tonight, and I can't wait to see her reaction." Reaching into my jacket pocket, I retrieved travel plans and tickets for a week-long cruise. "I'm whisking your mom away on a 7-day cruise aboard the new yacht, love. I'm eager to witness her joy when she learns about it. Don't breathe a word when she arrives. I want it to be a surprise." Dad. Her use of daddy always tugged at my heartstrings, evoking memories of her as a little girl nestled on my lap. But I sensed something amiss as tears welled in her eyes and she struggled to catch her breath, clearly anxious about what I was about to hear. "Dad, we need to talk," she said, a tear slipping from her eye. Witnessing the concern on my face, I inquired, "What's wrong? Is something the matter with Mom?" "No, Mom's okay. Please just sit down and I'll explain everything," she urged. I settled in, meeting her tearful gaze as she struggled to continue. After a pause, she began. "Dad, you know how much Mom loves you, and she's mentioned how great things have been between you two lately." "Yes, and I love her too. That's why I want to express my feelings for her now," I said. But seeing her tears, I sensed that her words weren't unfolding as planned. "I'm really sorry, Daddy, but Mom has a date." I sat in silence, comprehending the words but grappling with their significance. Her tears flowed as my mind connected the dots, stirring anger within me. "Brandy, what do you mean?" "Where's your mother?" I demanded, my voice booming, causing her to recoil in fear. "Mom loves you deeply, Daddy, and you might take this the wrong way. But she went on a date with someone else and won't be home until tomorrow. She couldn't bring herself to tell you, so I volunteered because she didn't want to hurt you. It's just one night, and she'll be back tomorrow." "What's this, a joke? You can't be serious. Your mother would never betray me like this. We were so loving and close." "I can't believe it," I exclaimed. "Dad, she loves you. She just needed to try something new. After 30 years of marriage, she felt restless and wanted more in life. Just once. Nothing will change between you, except that she'll love you even more for understanding," my daughter reasoned. Studying her closely, I asked, "Brandy, why are you involved in this? Your mother shouldn't have brought you into it, and I should be discussing this with her, not you. How did she rope you into this?" "Dad, you know Mom and I have always been close. We share everything. She confided that things had slowed down between you two in the bedroom, and she felt neglected. My friend's father lost his wife years ago. He was depressed and needed companionship, so I introduced them," she explained. I abruptly stood, knocking over a chair. "What? Are you serious? You set your mother up on a date with your friend's father?" I demanded, pacing the kitchen in disbelief. "Damn it, Brandy, answer me," I yelled, towering over her. "Did you arrange this? My wife, your mother, is on a date with your friend's father because of you?" Anger surged through me, spittle flying from my mouth. "I'm really sorry, Daddy, but yes. It sounds bad when you put it that way, but I did it out of love for my friend's parents," she explained. "Holy hell, what have you done? Love for your friend's parents? What about your love for me? Am I just some piece of trash you can disrespect and expect me to accept whatever you come up with? Where is she now? And what did you mean when you said she won't be home until tomorrow?" I demanded. "Dad, he took her to a restaurant, I don't know which one, and then they'll spend the night together. But it's only this once. She'll be back tomorrow, and Daddy, she loves only you. All she's been telling me for the past 2 weeks is how much she loves you and doesn't want you to be hurt. It's just one date and one night. She knew you would understand and give her this one chance." "Is that all?" I said, sarcastically. "So foolishly, I believed her recent affection was fueled by love, but now you're telling me it was just to assuage her guilt." "Well, this won't end well, I assure you," I retorted, still in disbelief. Tears streaming down her face, she pleaded, "Dad, it's not like that at all. She never pretended or hurt you. On the contrary, she did everything possible to show you her love. Daddy, can't you just give her this one night? You know she loves you and can't imagine life without you. She told me she looks forward to your retirement and spending time with your grandchildren. Mike and I plan to have kids, and we need both of you." Well, isn't that incredibly unusual? That ship sailed the moment she agreed to go on a date with someone other than me. "Who is this guy?" I asked. "He's my friend Mary's dad. He's really nice, and I think you'll like him, Daddy." "I believe you two have a lot in common," she replied. "Oh, really? We could be great pals. So you think I could befriend a man who knowingly dates a married woman, my wife? Maybe we can become drinking buddies, and I can offer him your mom on the weekends. Is that what you and your mom have in mind for me? I retorted sarcastically. Brandy sank into her chair, realizing a serious flaw in her plan. She had never seen me so angry or heard me speak to her like that. A shiver ran down her spine as she recoiled from my anger. After pacing around the room, I finally regained control of my emotions and turned to my daughter, speaking with a venomous tone she didn't want to hear anymore. My hurt and pain were evident, making her feel small and guilty for her role in the situation. Listen carefully, Brandy. I want you to leave now. I need to be alone to process what you two did to me tonight. I don't want to see or hear from you. Don't call me, don't write, ever. Your betrayal is unforgivable, and now I have no daughter. You are dead to me. Do you understand what this means? I'm no longer your father, and I don't have a daughter. Now, get out of my house and never speak to me again, I declared sternly. Brandy sobbed openly, her head in her hands. Dad, please don't say that. I love you, and I want to stay here tonight. Mom and I planned for me to stay with you. We don't want you to be alone. The level of disrespect you've shown me makes me question if you ever respected or loved me as your father. You're your mother's daughter. All these years I worked tirelessly to provide you and your mother with a better life, and this is the gratitude I get? No. It turns out I'm only here as a meal ticket, and I've obviously never earned any respect from either of you. I concluded bitterly. Between tears and sobs, she uttered, Dad, I love you. Please refrain from saying that. Leave it to your mom to explain everything tomorrow. You've had 30 wonderful years together, and I know you love her. Give her just one thing, and she won't leave you, Daddy. She loves you. She may have her one thing, two things, or 1,000 things, but she will never have me again. Forgiveness is beyond my capabilities. Everyone involved will be punished, including the lonely man who took my wife, a married woman. Now go away. You showed your true colors, and you still have your mother. Nothing will change for you. You two are made for each other. Like I said, Brandy, in my heart, you are no longer my daughter. Now please leave. With tears streaming down her face in agony, she literally ran out of the house, experiencing a pain she had never felt before. She never anticipated her father's reaction would be like this. Had he truly forsaken her? For the first time, she realized she might have overstepped a boundary by aiding her mom with this idea. Knowing he loved them both, she could see his anger clearly. No, he was furious, and she prayed he would forgive them. Immediately after Brandy departed, I dialed Maggie's cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I left several messages pleading for her to call me and come home. After a few drinks and no response, I sent numerous text messages with the same plea. Still, there was no reply. By 2 in the morning, it dawned on me that she wouldn't return or answer my calls. Exhausted from self-pity, I simply stared at the TV, which was broadcasting more bad news. In an instant, my world transformed into a nightmare. I reflected on our 3 decades of marriage, recalling the fond memories, the birth of our daughter, the joyous celebrations, Brandy's wedding, and the close bond we shared. All now seemed lost forever. Before her infidelity, Maggie and I maintained closeness 2 to 3 times a week, albeit routine and less thrilling than in our youth. Yet, there were no grievances. Post-coitus, we always embraced and drifted off to sleep in each other's arms. I love you was a daily exchange, and disagreements were rare. Gazing out the window, my eyes settled on the art studio I constructed for Maggie to nurture. Her passion. For 2 decades, she devoted herself to crafting remarkable paintings and sculptures, earning accolades. Displayed in the studio turned gallery I built to showcase her achievements, it became her sanctuary, a testament to her artistic prowess. While I adored her, I often felt relegated to 3rd place in her priorities, behind our daughter and her art. Regardless, her happiness was paramount to me. Brandy's revelation rattled me to the core. The disclosure of Maggie's desire to seek closeness elsewhere blindsided me. A betrayal delivered through our daughter stoked my fury and humiliation. Amidst my turmoil, I contemplated my life, my home, and the uncertain future ahead. My ancestral home, passed down from my grandfather, stood free of mortgage and stirred thoughts of vengeance in my inebriated mind. Fueled by anger and hurt, I pondered ways to inflict reciprocal pain upon Maggie. As I continued to peer out at her sanctuary, a surge of resolve coursed through me. With newfound vigor, I leapt from the couch, replacing sorrow with action. Over a dozen trips to our bedroom ensued as I gathered Maggie's belongings and relocated them to her studio. Expensive shoes, dresses, clothes, jewelry, all now strewn across the floor of her artistic refuge. For the next hour, I scoured the house for photo albums, including our wedding mementos, stacking them atop the burgeoning pile. Then it struck me. She had vacuum-sealed belongings in the attic, Among them lay her wedding gown, infant garments, and numerous sentimental items, all of which I hauled down into the growing heap, now towering over a meter high. It's astonishing how much one person accumulates over the years. Removing all her framed photographs from the walls, I added them to the stack. Sculptures, sketches, and every cherished possession she held dear were amalgamated into this mounting pile of belongings. As the clock struck 5 in the morning, I remained on edge, resolving to refrain from action until 6 a.m. I afforded her an opportunity to return home or respond to my calls and messages. Should I receive no reply or find her absent, I vowed to complete what I had started. Rechecking the house, I ensured every item of hers was now housed in the studio. At 5:30, I retrieved a 20-liter canister of gasoline from the garage and made my way to the studio, preparing for 6 a.m. In the interim, I conducted online transactions, canceling joint credit cards, transferring funds to separate accounts, withdrawing cash from the safe, and packing a few suitcases. These I loaded into my truck, anticipating my temporary departure until legal matters were resolved. Waiting another 5 minutes for her potential return, by 6:05 my last glimmer of hope extinguished. I doused the pile and studio walls with gasoline. With a heavy sigh and brief hesitation, I made my fateful decision, igniting the heap with a lit match. The flames rapidly consumed her treasures, their glow already visible from the street. Before I could depart, the flames swiftly engulfed her world and everything dear to her. Driving down the highway, a sudden realization hit me, accentuated by my dire state. A profound sorrow washed over me, tears streaming down my face. In that moment, it dawned on me that my once blissful marriage had met the same fate as the studio. It had burned to the ground. What caught me off guard was the fire's spread from the studio to the back porch, igniting both structures. Fortunately, firefighters managed to douse the blaze in the studio and contain the flames on the porch, salvaging the house. However, the residence suffered extensive smoke damage and was rendered uninhabitable until repairs were completed. Amidst the chaos, I checked into a highway motel roughly 90 miles away from the smoldering remains of my marriage. Paying with cash, I was determined not to be found until I could gather my thoughts, opting for cash to avoid leaving a trail if the authorities pursued me. Fueled by adrenaline, I remained wide awake until I entered my room. Switching off my phone, I collapsed onto the bed, slipping into a deep slumber and only awakening at noon. As soon as I powered on my phone, it lit up with notifications. I found dozens of missed calls and texts from Brandy, Maggie, and the sheriff. Upon exiting the Uber, I rendezvoused with Alexander at the restaurant, a mix of nervousness and excitement coursing through me as I beheld the sight of this attractive young man awaiting me at the reception desk. A smile graced his lips as he noticed my admiration of my little black dress, complemented by black sheer tights and matching high heels. His gaze lingered on my revealed cleavage, accentuated by the black bra peeking through. Earlier in the day, I had spent hours at the salon, ensuring my hair and makeup were flawless, determined to make this one-time encounter thrilling, unforgettable, and flawless for him. My companion seemed pleased with the sight before him, his growing manhood subtly adjusting to his reaction. Bolstered by his apparent approval, my confidence soared as I greeted him with a tender kiss. As we exchanged greetings, we migrated to the bar, settling onto bar stools where I caught him stealing glances at my nylon-clad legs down to my underwear as I rose. Our mutual smiles persisted as he placed our drink order. Deciding to silence my phone to avoid any distractions, I resolved to savor every moment of this unique evening, recognizing its fleeting nature. There was a palpable chemistry between us, and our rapport felt akin to that of old friends. I found myself lightly touching his arm and engaging in flirtatious banter, behaviors I rarely indulged in, even with Jason. But tonight, I was determined to embrace my inner confidence and relish in the experience. As we polished off our second glass, the gracious hostess announced our table was ready and ushered us to our seats. Dinner was delightful, and I relished our conversation and shared time. When he inquired if I still desired to spend the night with him, I slipped off my heels and teasingly slid my foot between his legs. His gaze lingered on my red toenails peeking through the sheer nylon, eliciting a smile as he declared it was time to depart. Hand in hand, he guided me to his prearranged hotel room. As the elevator ascended to the 14th floor, the gravity of the situation struck me, and fleeting thoughts of Jason flooded my mind. Sensing my apprehension, he drew me close to his sturdy frame. Meeting his gaze, I was met with a passionate kiss, unlike any I'd experienced before. That moment was all it took to cast aside thoughts of my husband and marriage. Tonight, I was his, fully embracing the experience. Once inside the room, he wasted no time in unzipping my dress, allowing it to cascade to the floor before disrobing himself. Spinning me around, he praised my allure, then deftly removed my bra and guided me to the bed. The passage of time became a blur as the encounter unfolded, each moment suffused with sensuality and tenderness, leaving me yearning for more. Falling to my knees, I lavished attention on his exquisite form. After several moments, unable to resist any longer, he fervently removed my pantyhose and insisted I don my heels again. Confessing their allure heightened his desire. Amidst our lovemaking, he peppered me with passionate kisses, displaying an expertise that left me awestruck. Fleetingly, I entertained thoughts of introducing similar passion to Jason, but quickly pushed such comparisons aside. His unwavering gaze met mine as he uttered the unexpected words, "I love you, Maggie," a declaration that stirred my soul. It felt akin to a divine revelation, evoking tears of pure joy. We engaged in lovemaking 4 more times throughout the night and once more in the morning, each encounter as passionate as the last. It stood out as the most incredible carnal experience of my life, and I commended myself for allowing it with Alexander. Thoughts of Jason started to intrude, but I endeavored to focus on the man embracing me tightly. Bathed in the morning sunlight filtering through the curtains, we shared tender kisses, his fingers gently caressing my hair. "Maggie, as I mentioned last night, I was sincere. You're an extraordinary woman, so alluring and sensual, and I believe I'm falling in love with you. Can we see each other again?" Suddenly, apprehension gripped me, and I sought to be delicate. "Alexander, it was an extraordinary experience, and you're a kind, wonderful man. However, I'm happily married, and I can't repeat it. It was a one-time event. I cherished it, and you were amazing. You're a fantastic lover, and every moment was enjoyable. Maggie, please think it over before you decline. Your husband doesn't appear to object, and if you allow this to continue, I can bring you great happiness. Just consider it before saying no, please." "All right, yes, I'll consider it." With another deep kiss, he held me close, and I surrendered to his embrace. If I weren't married to Jason, I'd be with Alexander in an instant. Yet Jason is my husband, and I hoped he could forgive me for my actions. Following breakfast, we departed the hotel, and as he drove me home, I switched on my phone for the first time since our date the previous night. Stunned by the multitude of missed calls and texts, seeing Jason's message, a pang of guilt pierced my heart. This dear man was in anguish, and I was absent. Tears welled in my eyes, realizing I had caused his suffering. Before I could proceed to the next text, the phone rang as Alexander pulled into my neighborhood. "Mom, where are you?" "Hey, sweetie, I'm almost back home." "Mom, there was a fire at the house. We tried calling you all night, but it seems you turned off your phone." "Fire? Where's your dad?" "That's the thing, Mom, he's missing. Nobody knows where he is, and he's not picking up calls either." "I have a bad feeling, Mom." "I'm almost there, I'll call you back." As Alexander turned onto my street, I spotted a fire truck and police vehicles outside our house. Noticing no visible damage at the front, I inquired with the firefighters about the situation. "Are you the homeowner?" one of them asked, as curious neighbors eyed me standing beside an unfamiliar, handsome man, my companion. "Yes, I'm Maggie Spencer." "Well, Mrs. Spencer, we managed to salvage the house. Only the rear porch suffered damage. However, you won't be able to stay here until professionals clean up the smoke residue inside. The cottage at the back, unfortunately, couldn't be saved." My legs gave way, and Alexander supported me, guiding me to sit on the curb. "Is she destroyed?" "I'm sorry, Mrs. Spencer, but all that remains are charred remnants. We'll investigate the cause of the fire, but for now, the police detective has a few inquiries for you." I hurriedly rose and headed towards the back of the house before Sergeant Wilson could interrogate me. He caught up as I stood before the remnants of my cherished sanctuary. Instantly, I suspected Jason's hand in this, a retaliatory act for my indiscretions. "Mrs. Spencer, do you have any idea what happened here?" inquired Sergeant Wilson. "No, I wasn't here last night, and I'm clueless about what transpired," I replied. "Are you her husband?" He redirected his question to Alexander. "No, just a friend," he answered. A blush crept up my face as the sergeant cast a knowing glance and inquired about my husband's whereabouts. "I told you, I don't know." When pressed about my own location last night, I timidly admitted to being with Alexander at the Hilton Hotel downtown. The scrutinizing looks from the sergeant and his assistant underscored the gravity of my situation. I had just confessed to not spending the night with my husband, who had also vanished. Now the detective had more questions. "Mrs. Spencer, are you and your husband separated? Do you know where he was last night?" "No, we're happily married," I insisted, only to realize the absurdity after disclosing my nocturnal escapade. "Do you have any idea of his whereabouts?" "No, he's not answering calls." "We'll need to speak with him, so when you do, please provide him with my contact information. he instructed, handing me his card. Anger and fear surged within me, anger at the loss of my sanctuary and years of labor, everything gone in an instant. Fear at the thought of Jason's potential rage and its implications for our marriage. I needed to reach him urgently. I dialed Bry's number. "Brandy, have you heard from your dad?" "No, I haven't spoken to him since yesterday evening." "Why didn't you stay with him as planned?" "Mom, he kicked me out and disowned me," she revealed. Those words sent a shiver down my spine. Jason would never utter such words, and if he did, it would be far worse than I could fathom. Upon entering the house, I was met with smoke-damaged walls and a foul odor pervading our once cozy home. It was clear we couldn't stay here in such conditions. I surveyed the house and decided to gather clothes and personal items for a few days. In the bedroom, I found everything missing and panicked. My clothes, shoes, and belongings were gone. My heart sank as I searched for my wedding rings on the nightstand. None were there. Why had I left them? What was I thinking? If Jason saw them missing, he must have assumed the worst about our marriage. How foolish and selfish of me. In a panic, I scoured every room, realizing all my possessions were gone. A dreadful realization struck me. Had he truly destroyed everything? Was there nothing left? I rushed out of the house and returned to the studio, examining the remnants closely. Amidst the debris, I spotted photo frames and partially damaged clothing. It was evident Jason hadn't taken my day out as expected, but had obliterated everything dear to me, severing me from his life in one swift blow. I called Brandy in tears and recounted what had occurred, expressing my need for a place to stay. Alexander promptly offered his place, but he was the last person I wanted to see. I insisted on being alone and asked him to leave, hurting him with my abruptness. In that moment, anger swelled within me, directed both at myself and the man I had spent the night with. I recognized my wrongdoing, but unfairly placed blame on him for my selfish betrayal when it was clearly my fault. "Brandy, I've lost your dad," I sobbed. "Mom, please don't say that," she pleaded. "Dad loves you, Mom," she reassured. "He burned everything, my clothes, paintings, my studio, all gone. He left me with nothing, not even a place to stay. He won't answer my calls. I hurt him the most, and I don't blame him. What I did is unforgivable. I should have talked to him instead of going on that date. We could have worked things out, but my selfishness drove him away. If I were in his shoes, I'd never take me back. What should I do now? I have nowhere to go, no clothes. Mom, don't blame yourself. It's partly my fault. You can stay with us until your house is fixed. Today, we'll buy new clothes and get you settled tonight," Brandy offered. "Brandy, all my paintings and sculptures are gone. 30 years of marriage and 20 years of my work destroyed, and I'm left alone," I lamented, attracting the attention of neighbors passing by. "Oh my God, your dad's calling. I'll call you back." Struggling to answer the call, I nearly collapsed, but just managed to connect. "Jason, is that you?" I asked breathlessly. "Hi, Maggie, how are you?" "Jason, where are you? Please come home," I pleaded. "No, Maggie. I know everything. From your daughter. Yes, your daughter, not mine. You're both dead to me, and this may be the last time we talk." "Jason, no, please don't say that. I love you. You need to know this," I begged. "Jason, the studio is gone." "Did you do this?" he demanded. "Maggie, you did it, not me. Maybe not physically, but you incinerated it with your betrayal. When I saw your wedding rings discarded, and you gave yourself to another, you died in my heart. Your actions are unforgivable, and Bry's involvement is shameful and incomprehensible. We're finished. I'll see my lawyers on Monday to start the process." "Please, Jason, can't we talk and work things out?" "You can't just discard our 30 wonderful years like this," I implored. "Maggie, we're talking, and I'm not the one discarding our 30 wonderful years. You planned to betray me, gave me 2 weeks of amazing love to ease your guilt, then cheated, with your daughter's help. No one could accept or forgive such treachery. It was pure evil. I hope you regret it for the rest of your pathetic life. This is our last conversation. Contact my attorney for anything further. Goodbye, Maggie." "Jason, hold on, Jason. Jason had vanished, taking with him the world I cherished and loved. Brandy arrived just as I was desperately calling Jason, who had already ended the call. We embraced, tears streaming down our faces as we mourned our loss. Eventually, we realized we couldn't stay amidst the wreckage of what was once our home. While authorities investigated the fire, we needed to regroup, so we headed to Bry's house. Upon arrival, Brandy recounted the entire ordeal to Mike, who was taken aback by her explanation. Brandy attempted to explain everything, but when Mike discovered that his wife had arranged a date for her mother with a friend's father, he was appalled and furious. His anger flared. "Brandy, you set up a date for your mother with another man, and worse, you knew your father would be alone? You should have known he wouldn't stand for it. What kind of man would allow his wife to go out with someone else? Is this what you envision for our future? Will you willingly betray me like your mother did to your father? He was a good man. You and your mom were his whole world. What have you done? Brandy, let me tell you, you've shattered a good man and pushed him to extremes. I can't express how disappointed I am in you. I'll reach out to him and apologize for your thoughtlessness, but we also need to talk about us. Having children with you is on hold until I figure out where your values lie. I'll be blunt, I don't share them, and I won't tolerate such betrayal. She was taken aback by his anger and dismayed by his lack of understanding of her mother's predicament. It was just one date after 30 years of marriage, for heaven's sake. So what? Later she realized the real issue was the collapse of her parents' marriage, her father's departure, and her mother's shattered happiness. Soon they would all face the consequences of her actions. 5 days later, I returned home to assess the damage, opting against an insurance claim to avoid additional costs. I informed the lawyer that the house was solely mine, not part of the settlement. Maggie could receive half our savings and no child support. If she resisted, I'd file for infidelity, exposing her affair with our daughter's friend's father. Divorce papers were filed, and I inquired about a criminal arson lawyer, but realized criminal prosecution was unlikely without an insurance claim. In the worst case, fines might be issued, but no charges would proceed unless a false report was filed. A neighbor acquainted with Brandy from school called her when she saw me return. Brandy rushed over as I inspected the damage. Hearing her enter, I focused on the task, glancing at the ashes that once housed Maggie's studio. Brandy found me in a bedroom, embracing me tightly. "Daddy, I'm so sorry. Please forgive us. We love you." "Brandy, I can't forgive either of you. I told you not to speak to me again. Now leave me be." "No, you're my father, and you have to forgive me. I'm your daughter, and you love me." "Listen, I have no daughter anymore, just a woman who broke my heart. Leave me alone." "Dad, Mom needs you. She's with us, misses you terribly, and wants to apologize. Will you come over?" "Never. Our marriage ended the moment she went on that date and left her wedding rings. It's over, and I won't speak to her. You can both contact me through my lawyer. I'll get a new phone and number, but for now, leave and be with your mother." "Are you really ending 30 years of marriage?" "No, your mother did that when she took off her rings and went to her lover. You both destroyed my happiness, and I won't forget or forgive. Get out." Brandy left in tears, devastated by her father's disownment. His words cut deep, leaving a lasting pain that no therapy could heal. The following day, Maggie received divorce papers and was overwhelmed. Realizing her marriage had ended due to her infidelity, she attempted to reconcile, sought counseling, and tried talking to Jason, but he remained silent toward her and Brandy. Mike eventually reached Jason, expressing his dismay at the girl's actions. He reconsidered having children due to doubts about Bry's loyalty and involvement in the affair. Mike couldn't imagine living with someone with such values and is now in couples counseling to salvage their marriage. Meanwhile, Maggie hoped to return to the rebuilt house, but the divorce decree awarded it to Jason. She received half their savings and $3,000 million monthly child support for 10 years, which he had no intention of paying. Maggie must find employment to support herself, a responsibility she hadn't faced during their 30-year marriage. She eventually relocated from her daughter's apartment to a small one-room flat near the city center, where she secured employment at a small art gallery as a sales agent to make ends meet. Maggie's artistic freedom faced a sudden threat. No longer could she devote all her time to the splendid studio crafted by Jason, nor could she sit amid her art projects, savoring the serene lake view through the expansive panoramic windows gifted by her husband. Soon, work consumed her schedule, leaving little time to recreate the life she once knew. Gone were the days of leisure, along with her opulent and contented marriage, all for one exhilarating night with another man. There were never enough tears to erase the agony and remorse from that one-time affair, knowing her beloved husband Jason would never speak to her again, especially after disowning their daughter, which shattered her heart. Brandy spiraled into a deep depression following her parents' divorce, seeking solace and salvaging her crumbling marriage through therapy. Months later, the house was restored, and Jason continued to fulfill the court-mandated compensation. Without forewarning, he sold the house. Following the sale, Maggie approached him, seeking reconciliation and forgiveness. When she pressed the doorbell, a young couple welcomed her as they opened the door. "Hello, how can we assist you?" the woman inquired. "Yes, I'm seeking Jason Spencer. Is he here?" "Oh, the kind man who sold us this house? No, he mentioned he was leaving the country for a fresh start. He was incredibly pleasant and helpful. Are you Maggie by any chance?" "Yes, that's me. He left an envelope and instructed us to give it to you if you ever came by." "Thank you. I'll read it later. Best wishes and enjoy this lovely home." Maggie sat in the car, tears streaming down her face, realizing she'd never encounter Jason again and lamenting the love she had recklessly discarded. Returning to her solitary apartment, she sat on the bed, her hand trembling as she unfolded the letter. Maggie, 30 remarkable years. I'll forever cherish the beautiful life we shared. You were my first and only love. I deeply regret not fulfilling my role as your husband. Had I known you needed more, I would have moved mountains for you. But since you've chosen to forge your path alone, that's how our marriage will conclude, alone. Those 2 wonderful weeks leading up to your betrayal, I actually believed you had rekindled your love for me. They were the happiest weeks of our entire marriage. Learning from Brandy how you used those weeks to divert my attention from your betrayal shattered my soul. I'm certain your daughter has already informed you, but that night I was thrilled to come home and give you a special evening with 24 roses, your favorite chocolates, and wine. I planned to surprise you with a yacht cruise. Love, discovering that your affection and admiration were insincere and your true aim was to be with another man, left me utterly humiliated. Congratulations, you've destroyed me and our marriage. Because of this, I can't stay in this city any longer. I've resigned from my job and started a new life in another country. Don't bother looking for me, as I'll be off the grid. I have no desire to speak to you or your daughter anymore. This chapter of my life is closed, and I'm embarking on a new journey without you. It'll take me years to recover from the pain and betrayal you both inflicted. I couldn't bear to stay in our beautiful home without the love of my life and our wonderful daughter. Since you're both dead to me now, I have no reason to remain here. I sincerely hope your special night was worth our marriage and my love. I suspect it was. I'm certain you and your daughter will relish sharing stories. Have a happy life, and please forget about me and our years together, as I already have. My new life has already begun without you. Maggie believed she had no tears left, but after reading his letter, she cried uncontrollably all night, curled up in a ball. The excitement and memories of her encounter with Alexander faded into regret and sadness. Now and alone, she foresaw a bleak future without Jason. She traded her luxurious life for one night of selfish thrill. Jason confronted Alexander late at night as he was departing for Ecuador. Pushing into the house, Jason introduced himself as Maggie's husband, accusing Alexander of stealing her. Despite Alexander's attempts to explain, Jason refused to accept any excuses. His pent-up anger and pain were unleashed on the man before him. Their exchange was brief, as Jason wielded a crowbar. In less than a minute, Alexander's life changed forever. Before departing for the airport and leaving the country, Jason warned him, "I offer advice, idiot. Sleeping with a married woman is detrimental to your health." By the time Alexander reached the ER and informed the police, Jason was already on his way to a new life in Ecuador, free from his past burdens and family. It took detectives 2 weeks to ascertain Jason's departure and realize they couldn't pursue him until his return. With no extradition from Ecuador for assault charges, Alexander endured agonizing weeks in the hospital and months in physical therapy, adjusting to his new reality with reconstructed knees. The 25 stitches on his face would forever remind him of that fateful night with a married woman, uncertain of his future. He knew his former life was irretrievably lost because of those 2 women who encouraged him to pursue another man's wife. He cut ties with Maggie and Brandy completely. Bry's husband, Mike, almost ended their marriage over the incident. However, with the help of a psychologist, Brandy came to terms with her actions, vowing to remain faithful to Mike and their future family. Mike waited 2 years before agreeing to have children, ensuring his wife's commitment to fidelity, honoring his promise and her remorse. Jason ceased all communication with Brandy. Through her actions, she permanently severed ties with her father and his affection. Hearing about Alexander's assault, Maggie and Brandy were devastated, feeling accountable for the attack and amplifying the guilt and anguish they inflicted on Jason and their family's ruin. It served as another stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of their actions. Unbeknownst to them, they both realized that their naive belief that if only Jason had granted Maggie that one night, their blissful life would have endured, was misguided. Their folly shattered any semblance of happiness. The loss of their father and husband inflicted a lasting pain they would carry until their final days. Hindered by depression and advancing age, Maggie never found another partner, leading a desolate, sorrowful existence. Their dreams of a joyful twilight with Jason and their grandchildren became a distant memory, especially since Jason ceased child support as soon as he left the country. Her savings wouldn't last long, and she'd have to continue working to survive. Crying in her sleep became her usual activity. After selling my house and using my savings accumulated over 3 decades, I now possess more than $750,000 US. Deducting the cost of my new apartment, this substantial sum ensures comfort and tranquility for the next 30 years here in Ecuador. In this country, I've encountered many young, attractive women who appreciate the generosity of an American man, and I relish spending time with them. 6 months following that fateful night, I found myself on the beach in Puerto Lopez, sipping a cold beer in front of my new apartment. It dawned on me that divorce is a natural occurrence, and parting ways is acceptable. Being alone is okay. What's not acceptable is remaining in a situation where one is neither valued nor cherished. This will never be my reality again.
My girlfriend suggested an open relationship to help us grow, so I decided to kick her out. This morning, my girlfriend, who we will call Rose 24 female, told me she needed to talk to me about something very important. Turns out this important thing was to ask if we could open up the relationship. This felt like a huge gut punch. I really thought we had a good relationship. I'm 25 male, and we've been together for 2.5 years. I was pretty stunned, and I think she could tell because she seemed to backtrack very quickly. I asked her why she'd want to open up the relationship, and she said she thinks it would help us both grow. What does that mean anyway? I won't go over the whole conversation. I tried to stay calm as much as I could, and eventually told her I'd like her to leave while I thought about everything. She seems pretty distraught, which makes me wonder if she thought I'd react differently. Anyway, my main question is there any chance at saving this? Really, up until this point, I thought things were going good. Maybe I'm still kind of in shock, but I'd like to possibly save the relationship. This literally happened like an hour ago, and I'm really having a difficult time processing, but I feel really hurt. I've always heard that when one partner requests to open the relationship, it's basically over. Any advice is appreciated. Has anyone ever gotten through a situation like this, or does it always end in crap? Thanks, y'all. Edit. Okay, y'all have convinced me. I was already leaning towards ending everything, but considering I haven't gotten a single person telling me this would work, or that she probably isn't already cheating, I think it's time to end it. I'm going to call her right now and have her come get her stuff. Luckily, we don't share an apartment, so not too much stuff will need to be moved. Thanks for all the advice, everyone. I genuinely appreciate it. Edit 2. She's very upset, y'all. Yelling at me about how I can end the relationship over a question. I should have just packed her stuff and had her come get it. Should not have called. Community commentary first up. She's either cheating or has someone in mind. She wants to keep you as plan B. Don't open the relationship, it never works out, and you'll just get even more hurt than if you just break up with her. Someone else chimes in, open relationship request means 1, she has cheated and feels guilty and wants to wipe that away. 2, she wants to get her back blown out by Jimmy thunderbanging while utilizing you for your resources and support cake eater. Or 3, she's actively interviewing your replacement monkey branching. At any rate, she already has cheated or knows who she wants to bang. Maybe she even has a list. It's over. End it. Another says, don't ask any questions. Just say this, Rose, I thought about it. Since you want to act single, I'm making you single. As of now, we are both singles, so you can F the person you have in mind, but I will not be waiting for you. I deserve better than that. Then walk away. After you leave, mark single on all your socials with a caption. It sucks when someone wants to use the guise of opening the relationship as a way to cheat on you with a clear conscience. Ah, weekends, the perfect time for relationship bombshells. It's like brunch, but with a side of emotional turmoil. So, Rose drops the let's open the relationship grenade, huh? Classic move. It's like saying, hey, I know we've been sharing this ice cream cone for a while, but I really want to see if there's a better flavor out there. And then the backtracking begins. It's like watching someone try to defuse a bomb they just threw. Oh no, wait, I didn't mean it. Let's just pretend that didn't happen, shall we? But seriously, suggesting an open relationship as a growth strategy? That's like trying to fix a broken leg with a band-aid. I mean, sure, it may distract you from the pain for a moment, but it's not really addressing the issue. Update. Well, today has sucked backsides. When Rose came over to pick up her stuff, well, it didn't quite go like that. She was quite adamant that we were not breaking up, especially over a hypothetical situation. Well, I'm not exactly proud of this, but I sort of blew up at her. We had a relationship where I never really yelled, so I think it might have scared her, honestly. And again, I'm not exactly proud of it, but I really wanted to get some answers. After reading all the comments, y'all have me convinced she was cheating. Eventually, she completely broke down, and guess what? Some of y'all were right, she had already slept with someone. Hypothetical my butt. Rose, I really thought I felt broken earlier. Turns out, I didn't even know the definition. I felt an insane mix of emotions, mostly rage and sadness. A great combination, honestly. There was a moment where I thought I was going to put a hole in the wall. I'm proud of myself for not doing that. I calmly told her to get any of her crap and leave. She was in hysterics at this point, kept telling me we could get through it and not to throw our relationship away. I simply told her that she did that. I just sat on the couch, numb, waiting for her to grab her crap. Eventually, she left. Some of you probably could have predicted this, but she ended up leaving a decent amount of crap here. Should have just packed it all up for when she got here, so inevitably I'll have to deal with that. Sorry I stopped responding to y'all. I've been sitting on the couch just thinking of everything. My phone is blowing up with messages from Rose, her best friend, and her sister. I don't even know how to tell my friends and family. I think I'm just going to pack the rest of her crap and have one of my friends take it to her. Don't really want to see her again. I feel nauseous. Thanks for the advice. I'm glad I listened to you guys and didn't get tricked into something stupid. I didn't mention this in the first post, but this was my first real relationship, so I was hesitant at first to let it go. Having a hard time processing how different my life was literally 13 hours ago. Appreciate everyone who left a comment and reached out. Community response, first up, dude, advice from a 44-year-old man who has dealt with cheaters twice. Tell everyone what happened today. Give every detail you know. Do it fast. If you don't, she will try to blame you and stab you in the back, make you out to be the bad guy. Sorry you're a member of this group now. All the best. Someone else chimes in. I'm sorry you're going through this, man, but you dodged a bullet here. You don't have any kids or assets and you're not married, so you can just block her and erase her from your life. It won't be easy and will take time, but you need to heal. Eventually, you will heal. She asked for an open relationship because she felt guilty about cheating and wanted to keep doing it without guilt. There's no excuse for cheating. Her friends and sister will try and tell you she made a mistake and to not throw away your relationship over one mistake, but she made a choice to cheat and lie. Then suggested an open relationship to ease her guilt. They will gaslight the crap out of you. Block all of them. So, Rose's adamant denial of the breakup, huh? And surprise, surprise, turns out it wasn't just a hypothetical situation after all. I guess Rose missed the memo that cheating isn't part of a healthy relationship diet. In the explosive confrontation, nothing like a good old yelling match to spice up the breakup proceedings. But hey, props to you for not decorating the walls with new ventilation holes, keeping it classy in the midst of chaos. And now you're stuck with a pile of Rose's stuff, like a souvenir from a disastrous vacation, not to mention the joys of modern communication. Your phone blowing up like a fireworks display, courtesy of Rose and her entourage. I guess she's going for the if you can't win them over, drown them in messages approach. Update, additional update, hello y'all. Since my last post got so much attention, I thought some of you lovely gentlewomen and dudes would like to know how the last 2 days have gone. Well, my phone was blowing up with texts from Rose, her sister, and her best friend. Didn't respond to Rose a single time, however, I stupidly responded to the others for a little bit. Y'all probably know what was said, throwing away the relationship over something minor, yada yada. I did have to laugh at the best friends forever telling me I'm a witch for not fighting for my relationship and clearly didn't care about her. If I left it that easy? So I DM'd and blocked their butts, took Sunday to try and not fall into a horrible pit of despair and self-loathing by watching some ball and playing some Zelda. You guys would be proud of me. I haven't had a single drop of alcohol since crap went down. Today was the day I worked on some crap, packed up her stuff, and had a buddy drop it off at her place. He sent me a photo of it, he just left it on the top of her car. I thought that was pretty funny. Some of y'all were worried about me reaching out to people. The people that I'm actually concerned with knowing are aware of everything. Finally got the balls to call my mom. I was filled with shame and had a hard time calling her. I even sent a text to Rose's parents informing them of my side of what happened, just in case she spread some lies. You all get the idea. Then I blocked their butts too. I did want to touch on one thing. Some of y'all were convinced in my first post that my friend who didn't like Rose was the one she was having hypothetical situations with. I would be genuinely shocked, more shocked than finding out Rose was a cheater. He lives about 5 hours away and only met her once. He's also engaged, which doesn't necessarily mean he couldn't cheat, I guess, but I would be very, very surprised. The support y'all have given me has been overwhelming, and I appreciate every comment and message. I think I'm a long way from feeling good again. But you guys have helped me believe that it's something I can feel again someday. Honestly, I'd be surprised if I update again, but I thought I'd give a little bit of closure to anyone who was interested. Thanks, y'all. Taking a day to avoid the abyss of despair by indulging in some ball and Zelda, now that's what I call self-care. And kudos on the sobriety streak. OP Operation Pack and Ditch went off without a hitch, with your buddy dropping off her stuff like a surprise Amazon delivery, except with more emotional baggage. And props to your buddy for the rooftop drop-off. Classic move. But wait, a text to Rose's parents, just in case she's spreading more lies than Pinocchio after a tequila bender? Talk about covering your bases like a pro. Here's the closure, OP. May your future be brighter than a master sword in the Temple of Time, and if you ever need a shoulder to cry on, just remember, Zelda never judges. Cheers, and may the Triforce be with you. Do you have a similar story? Share it with us in the comments below. My stepdaughter passed away 4 weeks ago, and I found my husband and his ex-wife in our bed. My stepdaughter Becca, 14 female, died 4 weeks ago. I've been in her life since she was 7 years old, and we were extremely close. My husband Derek, 40 male, has an ex-wife, Sam, 38 female, and I, 35 female, get along very well. There's never been an issue in the 8 years that I've been with Derek. Sam has always been kind to me. She didn't even care that Becca called me mom, too. Right after Becca's passing, Sam had so much anxiety and depression that she was unable to be by herself. She has no family besides us, so we invited her to stay with us. Sam hardly leaves the house, mostly just sleeps in Becca's room, which is completely understandable. I always tell her that I'm here if she needs me, and that I want her to take her time with grieving, and that there's no pressure to go back to her home. Today I needed to run some errands, so I asked Sam if she'd like to join me to get out of the house a little bit, but she declined and said she'd rather just stay at the house and sleep. I told Derek that I was leaving, and that I would be back in 2-ish hours. He works from home. I also told him to check on Sam every once in a while and maybe try to get her to eat something. After stopping at the post office, I realized I forgot my library book that I needed to return, so I went back home to get it. As soon as I walked in the door, I heard moaning coming from mine and Derek's bedroom. I immediately knew what was happening, and my heart completely broke in that moment. I wasn't completely sure what to do, but I ended up deciding to confront them. So I walked to the bedroom, opened the door, and began yelling at them both. Sam started having an anxiety attack and ran to the bathroom while Derek kept apologizing profusely. I asked him what the hell was happening. He told me that he made himself and Sam some lunch, and they began talking about Becca and shared some memories. And then Sam ended up kissing him, and he didn't pull back, and then it ended with them in our bed. They're begging me to understand that it was just grief that caused them to become intimate, and that they both made a mistake. I don't know what to do. I love this man, and I love Sam. I'm heartbroken that they did this to me and put me in this position. I feel so stuck. Let's check in with the audience for some relevant comments. First up, that would be a hard no for me. I understand grieving, but how is this excusing cheating? What happens next time he is sad? Edit. I misspoke when I said sad. Obviously, this is something beyond devastating. I still don't think it can be used as an excuse. The OP replies, I don't want to excuse his cheating. I think I want to divorce him, but I'm anxious about doing it right after we lost Becca. Someone else adds, probably together. Do you both own the home? If it's in your name, change the locks. Stay strong and don't listen to his excuses. I'm so sorry this happened to you during such a difficult time. The OP replies, exactly what I was thinking of if I'm being honest. And yes, we both own it. When I told him to leave, he kept saying sorry and then said that he would leave and respect me wanting him gone for a while. The next comment says, are you seeing a therapist? Perhaps you're dealing with a lot right now. It might be useful. The OP replies, yes, I'm in therapy. I've been with my therapist for other things for the last 3 years. She's been very helpful. I saw her yesterday and was able to figure some things out. Well, talk about turning grief into a threesome. Looks like Sam took sharing memories a bit too literally. I mean, who knew mourning could be so arousing? Derek and Sam figured the best way to cope with loss was to dive headfirst into each other's arms. Classic move, right? And the best part? They're trying to sell you the grief-induced intimacy excuse. Sure, because nothing says I miss our daughter like getting it on with your ex's new wife. Update 1, May 11th, 2024. I decided that I'm filing for divorce. I can't ever trust Derek again. It sucks because we had an amazing relationship, I thought. He's always been great, so this was a complete shock to me. Last night, Derek came over to talk. He confessed to a lot. Turns out it wasn't their first time having sex like most people thought. They've been having sex since 3 months before Becca died. I'm completely shocked and heartbroken. Sam also reached out last night and thanked me for everything I've done for her and told me she was sorry. I didn't respond. I blocked her. I did so much for Sam and considered her a friend, so this hurts a lot more than I can handle. This is all too much. As hard as this is going to be, I need to leave Derek and cut them both out of my life. I'm ready to do so. I am done. Also, some people are saying I deserve this because I should have known better than to let Sam into our home around Derek. But you need to understand that I'm a giving person. I trust people more than I should. I truly thought Sam was an amazing person. I know it's unusual to become friends with your husband's ex-wife, but it's just how it went for us, and I shouldn't be blamed for what happened. Thank you to everyone who commented nice things and for the kind messages. You've all been helpful during this insanely difficult time. I appreciate it. A couple more comments from the audience. Out of curiosity, what are his excuses for cheating? Well, those two are going to be in a world of hurt once the guilt settles in. They're going to be asking themselves why it had to be Becca, and will eventually come to the conclusion that it's their punishment for what they've done. To you. I can pretty much guarantee you that. The LP replied, he told me they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. It seems so icky to me. How can he vent about our struggles like that and then go and have sex with Sam? It's just awful of him. I don't understand it. Editor's note, remove the first half of the update as it was a rehash of update 1. So, Derek's been multitasking, huh? Juggling both you and Sam like some sort of twisted love triangle. 3 is a crowd, they say, but apparently Derek and Sam missed the memo. And Sam, oh Sam, thanks you for everything and apologizes? Gee, thanks for the hallmark moment amidst the wreckage of your marriage. Maybe she'll send a fruit basket. Update 2. May 13th, 2024. I'm getting a lot of questions about some things, so I figured I'd answer a few of them. Have I told anyone about what happened besides my mom? Yes, I told a few friends and some family members. Most of them are supportive of my decision and aren't speaking to Derek. Where is Derek staying? Currently, he's staying in a hotel. Our friends refuse to let him stay with them. He's lost a lot of people due to his awful decisions. Has he tried fighting me on getting a divorce? Yes, he begged me not to file for divorce, but when I told him I needed him to just let me go and that I was too exhausted to fight him on this, he let it be and agreed to get a divorce. Why isn't Derek staying with Sam? He told me he didn't want to continue to hurt me, so he told Sam he was done with her for good and that they have no reason to speak to each other anymore. I have no idea if that'll last or if they'll just end up together, but I truly don't care what they do anymore. I just want peace. What was Derek's excuse for cheating? He told me that they accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam, and then somehow that led to sex. Disgusting of them both, I know. Feel free to ask anything else, and I'll try to answer. Thank you everyone for your support and advice. Now for some relevant comments. OP on what happened to Becca. It was very sudden. She died in a car accident when she was with one of her friends and her friend's parents. OP on her husband's parents being supportive or not, and if they know about his cheating. I get along with Derek's mom very well, but he's also a mama's boy, so it's kind of complicated. She will always be there for him. He'd stay with her if she didn't live across the country. She knows what he did and told me she had a talk with him, but said that he's still her son and she'd help him with anything, if he needed it. I'm thinking I need to cut her out of my life too, which makes me really sad because we were close and talked on the phone almost daily. OP on. If she has children with her husband, we've had 6 miscarriages total. All of them were in the first trimester. Another update, I just found out that he is staying with Sam and not at the hotel like he told me. He says it's too expensive to stay at a hotel and that Sam is the only one who'll help him right now. I had a feeling this would happen. Just knowing that they are still probably sleeping together hurts my heart. I talked to a lawyer this morning and we're proceeding with the divorce, and Derek agreed to it. It's actually happening, and I feel some relief that he's not fighting me on this. My mom leaves on Sunday. I'm scared to be alone, but I go back to work on Monday, so I'm hoping it'll be a good distraction. I'll keep updating if anything else happens. Thank you, everyone. I'm so grateful for you all. Back to some more relevant comments from the audience. OP, how did you find out he was staying at his ex-wife's place? Anything he says should be taken with a grain of salt. He is not true to his words, and going no contact with Sam seems impossible. The OP replies, he texted me this morning after we talked to lawyers and said he just wants to be honest with me. I told him to stop giving me updates on what he's doing in his life and that it's not something I need to know. It seems like he wanted to tell me to hurt me. On how she's doing, thank you, I'm doing a little better today. My mom and I went on some nature walks and went out into the garden this afternoon. That helped. Becca loved gardening with me, so it made me feel closer to her. Hotel? More like Heartbreak Inn, where the only continental breakfast is a side of regret. And I guess friends in Derek's diary means people who ghost you faster than Casper on speed dial. But wait, there's a twist. Derek's decided to shack up with good old Sam after all, because nothing says I'm sorry for cheating, like running back into the arms of the person you cheated with. Real smooth, Derek, real smooth. And his excuse? Oh, it's a real gem. Stress and miscarriages led to sex with the ex. Ah, the classic stress relief method. Cheat on your wife. Works like a charm, apparently. Becca's diary, May 15th, 2024. I decided to go through some of Becca's stuff today. I just found her diary in a box in the back of her closet. Would it be wrong to read some of it? I feel like it would help me feel closer to her, but part of me feels like it's wrong too. I haven't told Derek that I found it either, and I'm unsure if I should tell him. What would you do? Ask, and you'll get some comments back. Opie on if she was close with Becca prior to her sudden passing. Becca and I were very close. It felt like she told me anything and everything, but I honestly think all parents feel that way about their kids, so I'm kind of nervous to read it. Just a little update, May 19th, 2024, I figured it's been a few days, so I should give a little update. My mom is leaving in a couple of hours, so I'll be alone. I'm kind of nervous about it. She helped me stay distracted and kept me going. I don't know how I'm going to handle her being gone. I go back to work tomorrow, first day back since Becca passed away. I'm looking forward to it though, because it'll keep me distracted. Also, I did read some of Becca's diary. It made me love her even more. She was such a sweetheart. I went back a few months and saw that she noticed some weird behavior between Derek and Sam. She didn't mention that she knew of the affair, but she just wrote that she thought it was kind of strange that they all three would hang out more than usual without me. I might read more, but so far I haven't found anything that's disturbing. Just her being a teenager and talking about crushes, fights with friends, happy family memories, etc. tomorrow. I'm also talking to my lawyer, so I might have more updates on that. Thanks for the continuous love and support, everyone. Last update for a while, May 26, 2024, I started randomly getting a lot more messages and comments, so I figured I'd do another little last update. My first week back at work went great. I wasn't expecting it to go so well, but thankfully it did. My CO workers were so helpful and patient with me. On Friday night, I decided I didn't want to stay at home all weekend alone, so I decided to drive up to my mom's. It helps that I have a 3-day weekend, so I can spend more time with her. I'm heading back home tomorrow. Also, for those of you who have messaged me hateful things for reading Becca's diary, I just have to say, you aren't in my shoes right now. Telling me I'm a bad mom because I'm reading her diary is just ridiculous. I learned so much more about her, about how caring and how sweet she was, and it made me love her even more. It's how I'm able to feel so close to her right now, so please don't tell me I'm a bad parent just for trying to get by one of the hardest times of my life. You have no idea what it's like. I don't have much of an update, so this will be it. I'll come back and update once the divorce happens, though. Thank you to those of you who have been nothing but kind and helpful. You help me feel less alone, and I'll be forever grateful. Ah, the age-old dilemma. To snoop or not to snoop in your dead daughter's diary. Just another day in the life, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to take a peek into the inner workings of their offspring's mind, especially when they're not around to stop you? Too soon? And lo and behold, what do we find? Teenage crushes, family memories, and oh, a sprinkle of suspicious behavior between Derek and Sam. Because nothing says quality family time like a love triangle brewing in the background. New update, Sam saw my Reddit post and is threatening to sue me. June 1st, 2024, Sam made a fake Facebook profile to message me and tell me she wants to sue me for telling strangers about what happened. Derek supports her, apparently. I don't need this. Am I not allowed to vent about my life to people online? I just want my life to get better. I'm so tired. F you, Sam. F you, Derek. Edit, Sam is in the comments and messaged me on here too. Blocked her. More additional information from OP on the messages from Sam. No, I just ignore her. It might be an empty threat just to make my life harder, but I'm unsure. Her message said, so I was scrolling TikTok and ended up on an account where they read Reddit posts. And guess whose post they read? Yours. First, you tell friends and family, and then you go to a bunch of strangers and tell them our life story. I can't believe you. It isn't just your business to tell. Becca would be so disappointed in you. Be prepared, because I think I'm going to be suing you for this. This was no one else's business. You did this to yourself, remember that. I'm actually baffled she thinks Becca would be disappointed in me. What the F, the old threat of a lawsuit, the ultimate, I'm mad at you and I want you to know it, move. Because nothing says let's resolve our issues like mature adults, like threatening legal action over a Reddit post. I mean, forget about resolving things like civilized human beings, right? Let's just skip straight to the courtroom drama. But hey, who needs a support system when you've got strangers on the internet, am I right? Because clearly, venting online is a crime punishable by legal action. And Sam's little guilt trip about Becca being disappointed, classic manipulation tactic. Because nothing says I'm a victim here like dragging a deceased child into the mix. What do you make of all this? What would you have done? Do you blame her for posting on Reddit? Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, I'm Jake, 37 years old. I had an amazing 3-year marriage with Leah, who's 30. We were deeply in love and inseparable, like 2 peas in a pod. But everything crumbled when I discovered Leah cheated on me. As I write this, my heart is heavy, and I hope sharing my story brings some consolation. A few years ago, at a noisy street festival in our city, fate seemed to play a role. Leah and I kept crossing paths in the crowd. The last time at the festival, we laughed, realizing we'd met at least 6 times that day. Believing in the universe's power to guide us, I saw this as a message from fate. The green-eyed blonde I often saw felt familiar, so I wanted to talk to her. Our communication was easy, and every part of her personality seemed perfect. It dawned on me during the conversation that she recently became a physics professor at our local state college. This was significant because her appearance didn't fit the stereotypical professor image. With her slim build and youthful complexion, it was easy to mistake her for a recent college graduate. Initially, I didn't think about dating Leah, just saw her as a brilliant friend who occasionally intimidated me with her genius. But as we spent more time together, I realized I had fallen deeply in love with her. She valued our communication and grew fond of me. About 2 months after our first meeting, she started sharing a bed with me, seeking comfort and advice when she had issues with her then boyfriend. Over time, our relationship became more closeness. I knew it was wrong, but I allowed it because she assured me she was about to end her relationship with her boyfriend. After a few weeks of our newfound closeness, she broke up with him, explaining it was due to a lack of intellectual compatibility and different personalities. Though her reasons disturbed me, I felt relieved we were now together, unaware I had fallen into a trap. We continued dating for 9 months and eventually got married. I was genuinely and passionately in love with her. We envisioned growing old together. Before the wedding, Leah and I signed a contract to start a family early. I loved children and didn't want to wait until 40 to be a father. I wanted to spend ample time with my children, witnessing their growth and giving them the fatherly love I missed so much. In the beginning, our plan looked perfect, but around a year after the wedding, we faced a heart-wrenching reality. Leah couldn't get pregnant in our 2nd year of marriage, causing even more sadness for me. We explored every option, ran many tests to figure out why Leah couldn't conceive, but surprisingly, all results came back normal. I even had several examinations myself, hoping to find any underlying problems, but each time, I received positive results. Unlike Leah, who stayed completely calm, I couldn't shake a growing unease. My dream of starting a family in our 2nd year didn't happen, and honestly, it weighed heavily on my heart, causing significant anxiety. Traditionally, women are believed to carry the longing for children, but in our case, Leah seemed surprisingly unfazed by our inability to conceive. She always reassured me, saying, "Don't worry, the time will come when we're destined to have a child," and went back to her daily routine easily. Sometimes, I had to avoid mentioning the topic because it made her react, making me feel like I was exaggerating or blaming her for our difficulties. So, I chose not to discuss it further, respecting her point of view. I'm aware that the details I'm about to share are deeply personal, but expressing these thoughts is crucial to complete my story. Despite our inability to have a child, I didn't let this failure cast a shadow on our marriage. On the contrary, I saw it as an opportunity to strengthen our bond and cherish the precious moments with Leah before children entered the picture. Yet over time, I couldn't help but notice changes in her behavior. It started feeling like we were just strangers living under the same roof. I worked at a construction site and often didn't have the chance to personally meet most of my colleagues and clients. Surprisingly, Leah seemed to know a lot about them, their names, appearance, behavior, and attitudes. We got into the habit of sharing the smallest details of our working days. Similarly, I found myself well informed about the students in her courses, their names, appearance, and even the problems they faced. I knew about difficult and wonderful students, all thanks to Leah sharing stories about her students and her working days. But something changed, and you might want to know how it happened. Let me explain. Suddenly, our regular conversations stopped, and I was puzzled. What could have caused such a change? Initially, I thought she was just having a hard day, but bad days turned into weeks, and the weeks gradually turned into months. We found ourselves in a state of prolonged absence, missing the connection we had before. When I tried to start a conversation, Leah either said she was busy or promised we would talk later, which never happened. As if that wasn't enough, our closeness life suffered too. It got to the point where I begged her for even the simplest touch, but no matter how hard I tried, she wouldn't agree. On the contrary, she was offended and ran out of the bedroom. Every time she did that, it felt like a blow to my self-esteem, and my heart was shattered. It was hard not to feel that she was depriving me of my husband's rights, and it seemed like she was deliberately avoiding the possibility of having a child. Despite my deep love for her, I became more patient, trying to downplay the problem. Strangely enough, I continued to believe that eventually she would realize her actions were pushing us apart and would try to fix the situation. But that hope collapsed as she continued to distance herself, and our relationship deteriorated to the point where we became just neighbors, harboring enmity towards each other. Our once lively conversations went through a tough time, and we ended up in a constant state of disagreement. Maybe I should have investigated to understand why she changed suddenly, but blinded by love, I was driven by the sole desire to save our relationship. In desperation, I made a compromised decision to show my willingness to mend things, hoping it would make a difference. In a serious talk with Leah, I told her that having a child or not didn't matter to me anymore. I assured her that we could spend our lives together without it. Surprisingly, this statement seemed to uplift her for a whole week. I noticed slight changes in Leah's behavior as our closeness gradually resumed, even if it felt somewhat forced. I welcomed the temporary relief from the emotional distance, but just as abruptly as it started, a week later, she returned to her cold and distant demeanor. It seemed the warmth and happiness she showed were just a facade, a temporary mask she put on before shedding it off. This constant cycle of fluctuating emotions deeply disappointed me. The impact of these experiences affected all aspects of my life, influencing my performance and even my ability to sleep peacefully. I often hear couples living under the same roof say they can go for days without communicating meaningfully, and I wonder how they manage it in my situation. The lack of communication significantly affected my mental state, while Leah seemed to remain calm. She came home cheerful, cooked her own food, and then immersed herself in books and a laptop for the rest of the evening. When tiredness finally took over, she went to bed without a word. Due to the stark contrast between our experiences, I felt increasingly isolated and abandoned. While my loneliness worsened, Leah seemed to distance herself, drowning in her emotional solitude. As the third anniversary of our acquaintance approached, I decided to change things and dedicate a whole week to celebrate. I bought a special gift and planned to take her to a recently opened upscale restaurant in the city. Eagerly, I made all the necessary preparations, even booking a table for us. Throughout the day, I sent her numerous reminders via text, desperately hoping she wouldn't forget our plans. But the evening came, and she didn't show up. Moreover, she didn't come home at all that evening, leaving me devastated and abandoned. To my horror, Leah explained her absence, saying she fell asleep at a colleague's while working on a joint project. It was the final blow that shattered all my hopes. I reached a breaking point, emotionally drained, mentally exhausted, unable to handle the constant shocks. Despite persistent thoughts about Leah's possible infidelity, I chose to approach the situation with understanding, not acknowledging the possibility that she had withdrawn from our relationship. Nevertheless, This incident became a turning point, forcing me to confront the painful reality that had been lurking in the shadows until now. The mere thought that the woman I loved had entered into an affair with someone else left me completely shattered and devastated. After the events of our anniversary week, I made the challenging decision to seek answers. Overwhelmed by doubts and suspicions, I turned to the internet and enlisted the help of a private detective to uncover all the hidden truths about Leah's actions behind my back. While the investigator discreetly tracked her, I tried to distract myself by re-entering the dating world. On those nights when I knew Leah was completely exhausted and asleep, I sought solace in these new encounters. I considered using her fingerprint to unlock the phone and check its contents. After reading many stories about spouses discovering infidelity through their partner's devices, I decided to investigate. I went into various apps, checked her personal and work email, looked at her social media profiles, and carefully examined the contact list for suspicious names and emoticons. Despite spending several minutes on this thorough investigation, I couldn't find any evidence. The next day, still troubled by uncertainty, I asked her for a laptop under the pretext of needing it for a specific task. She readily handed it over, and I carefully examined its contents, desperately hoping to find signs of betrayal. To my surprise, her digital footprint was as clear as a newly fallen snowflake. There was no hint of her betrayal. Moreover, I felt guilty that in my relentless quest for the truth, I had resorted to the services of a private detective. When the weekend passed, I felt the need to confess my growing paranoia to the detective and express a desire for him to stop the investigation. However, I decided to be patient and postpone the conversation until Monday, knowing Leah spends most of her time at home on weekends. Finally, when Monday arrived, I contacted the detective to ask him to stop the investigation. Before I could say a word, they immediately informed me that they had found convincing facts that, in their opinion, I should see firsthand. The mere thought that this discovery happened just a week after hiring them almost stopped my heart. Overwhelmed with anxiety, I embarked on the longest trip of my life, allowing me to sort through numerous thoughts. When I met with the detective, my worst fears materialized. Leah was indeed attracted to another person. My heart broke when I saw pictures of them in a closeness setting, hand in hand, exploring different places together. Unable to contain my emotions, tears flowed down my face. Admittedly, I have always been a sensitive person, so it was difficult for me to realize that Leah betrayed our relationship. The situation was worsened by the fact that the photos captured their trip to a new restaurant I had ordered to celebrate our anniversary, and she never showed up. Additionally, in the pictures, they were in a passionate embrace in Leah's car, further intensifying my suffering. The private detective's findings revealed even sadder details, including instances when Leah and her new companion stayed overnight in hotels together. As the truth unfolded, it became clear that the project Leah actively participated in was none other than the man she held in her arms. It was a real shock to discover that her lover was much younger, likely around 20 years old. During the investigation, it turned out his name is Ryan. He is in the last year of the physics department, and surprisingly, Leah is his teacher. Hearing his name, a wave of recognition swept over me, and my heart sank to an unimaginable depth. Leah often mentioned Ryan in our conversations, praising his exceptional intelligence and academic achievements. She recognized him as one of the most capable students. I was aware of her admiration for people with unique intelligence, but I couldn't imagine she'd betray our relationship by having an affair with her student. A mix of heartache and anger overwhelmed me, leaving fragments after this revelation. Over the past 3+ years, I made countless sacrifices for Leah, so this betrayal was even harder to comprehend. While working together, I did everything to make Leah's life comfortable. I handled most household chores, cooking, cleaning, and grocery shopping. Leah's only task was laundry on weekends. I did everything else. Financially, we agreed on a 70-30 ratio, with most from me. I firmly believed it was my duty to bear more financial responsibility to support her. This decision aimed to ease her financial situation. I thought it natural to offer support and help to a loved one, just as I did with Leah. The most challenging part in our relationship was the lack of support from my mother. Despite her disapproval, I chose to marry Leah, complicating our relationship. Reflecting on the past, I instructed a private detective to monitor Leah's actions. The provided photographs couldn't satisfy my need for concrete evidence, pushing me to seek more accurate proof. My determination to catch them in the act intensified when I returned home. My wounded heart longed to meet Leah, but I resisted temptation. Silence engulfed me, hiding the depth of my pain. The surge of emotions forced me to leave the walls of our broken love urgently. Fear of succumbing to anger and causing misuse led me to collect a few necessary things in the closet. In this chaotic process, I stumbled upon an object that destroyed all remnants of love in my heart: birth control pills. Their presence extinguished any remaining hope. Confused at first, considering our unsuccessful attempts to conceive, I painfully realized Leah had been secretly taking birth control pills, unknowingly depriving us of starting a family. The truth hit me like an inexorable wave, crushing my hopes. Leah was the reason we couldn't conceive. In that heartbreaking moment, I realized how much she deceived me, letting me suffer and doubt our fertility. Unaware, she intentionally took birth control pills. The weight of this exposure crushed me more than the knowledge of her affair with a young man. Immersed in sadness, I clutched the birth control pills, tears streaming down my face, trying to comprehend her betrayal. Gathering strength, I decided to leave the house without saying a word to Leah, informing her I was going to my mom's and would be back on the weekend. It was a ruse, an elaborate plan to see if she would take the bait. That evening, I sought refuge in a hotel, longing for solace and clarity amidst mental and spiritual turmoil. The next day, my private detective passed on crucial information. Leah and her lover were heading to my house. This was the case I had been waiting for. In the grip of intense emotions, including anger and betrayal, I wished for a dramatic face-off with Leah. Inspired by videos where people courageously confronted their unfaithful partners, I decided to follow suit. To capture this pivotal moment, I hired a videographer to document every detail. Unobtrusively joining the videographer, we arrived at my house shortly after Leah and Ryan. Prepared for the scene, I was emotionally charged to confront them. Instead of immediately starting a fight, I chose to wait until they entered the house. After about 15 minutes, I cautiously entered the house with the videographer. Knowing Leah seldom locked the front door, especially if she assumed I wouldn't be there until the weekend, we silently headed to the bedroom. Soft music in the living room masked our approach. Outside the bedroom door, a mix of emotions churned in my stomach. Anticipation and anger surged, prompting me to take swift action. Without hesitation, I stepped forward and forcefully hit the door, shattering the illusion of secrecy concealing their betrayal. In the midst of the chaos, I directed the videographer to film Ryan behind Leah during act in bed. The sight of their betrayal further fueled my anger. In seconds, they hastily gathered their clothes, resembling a stampede of rats seeking cover. As Leah slowly realized the gravity of the situation, her screams and insults filled the air, directed at me. Unable to contain my rage, I grabbed her by the arm and forcibly dragged her out of the house, leaving her defenseless and vulnerable. Her partner, hastily pulling on his pants, managed to escape before further confrontation. The scene was chaotic, filled with violent emotions. Leah's screams reflected the consequences of the revealed truth, drawing neighbors out of their homes. At the moment of realization, Leah understood the severity of her actions and hurriedly disappeared in her car. Without delay, I took action, sending incriminating photos collected by my private detective and video recordings from the videographer to the college where Leah worked. Inspired by the stories I had heard, I anticipated the likely outcome, and events unfolded exactly as expected. The following week, Leah faced the consequences of her actions. She was fired from her college job. Exposed by the revelations, Leah was expelled from college, eliminating her future prospects. Despite threatening messages, I focused on ending the toxic relationship and initiating the divorce process. All I wanted was to rid myself of her forever. Leah returned to our house to pack, but her whereabouts remained unknown to me. After our meeting, I spent the rest of the week looking for divorce lawyers in our neighborhood, preparing for the upcoming trial. It was evident that dissolving the marriage was the only way to move forward and reclaim my life. After a thorough search, I found a suitable divorce lawyer and immediately scheduled a meeting to discuss next steps. With a firm decision, I proceeded with the divorce process. A few days later, I confronted Leah, handing her the divorce papers, officially ending our union. Her reaction was unexpected. Leah was shocked by my decision to divorce her, responding with laughter instead of facing the reality. She claimed marrying me was a favor, asserting my intellectual inferiority. Though hurt, I hid my inner shock behind a smile, not wanting her to see how deeply her rude statements hurt me. In that moment, I saw a side of Leah that I had never seen before, the true extent of her callousness and lack of remorse. This deeply disturbed me. I was even more outraged that she brazenly belittled me and boasted about how lucky I was in my relationship with her. She boldly predicted I'd soon crawl back and beg her to take me back, claiming I couldn't live a month without her. Instead of signing the divorce papers, she took them from my hands, saying she was giving me time to recover. That's how she left, leaving me alone with mixed emotions from her heartless words and actions. I kept my discovery about birth control pills a secret, expecting Leah to admit her dismissal from work for crossing ethical boundaries. Surprisingly, she stayed silent, focusing on convincing me to return. Months passed with persuasion until Leah reluctantly signed the divorce papers, officially ending our marriage. Little did I know this wasn't the end of our story. In our first meeting to sign the divorce papers, Leah acted strong, as if she considered herself the only significant woman. After the divorce, she changed dramatically, bombarding my phone and social media with messages. I had to block her number and cut off our online connection, but even these measures couldn't stop her. Weeks later, Leah appeared on my doorstep, looking unhappy with a tear-stained face. Seeing me, a flood of emotions overwhelmed Leah, forcing her to fall to her knees in tears. She begged me for forgiveness, promising to change beyond recognition. She shared her difficulties without me, claiming she had nowhere to turn and faced the danger of having her car confiscated. Having lost her job and tarnished her reputation, it was increasingly difficult for her to find work elsewhere. My heart broke when I saw her vulnerable state, and I listened to her plaintive pleas. Despite the pain I caused her, I couldn't ignore her suffering. This challenged my resolve, forcing me to face the complexities of forgiveness and compassion. When I saw Leah standing in front of me, anger flared up again. She squandered all her savings on her young student boyfriend, giving him lavish dinners and dressing him in luxurious clothes. Now she stood before me, penniless and desperate. Instinctively, I slammed the door and cut her out of my life, but she persisted, pushing her way forward. When her first requests failed, she resorted to another card. Taking a deep breath, she admitted she had something to tell. Intrigued but still wary, I reluctantly let her talk. When she started talking, the unpleasant truth came out. She had been taking birth control pills for the entire 2 years we were trying to conceive a child. This revelation shocked me and sparked disbelief, mingled with the lingering rage inside. Leah confessed to using birth control pills because she wasn't ready for motherhood back then. However, she now insisted she was prepared and promised to try her best to conceive if I returned. She painted a future with the happy, united family I'd always dreamed of. Despite my doubts, I let her explain after carefully listening to her request. When she finished, I calmly let her know that I was already aware of the birth control pills, capturing a mix of surprise and awareness on her face. Looking directly into Leah's eyes, I honestly shared my feelings. I explained that considering forgiveness for her infidelity was one thing, but the deeper wound she inflicted was beyond healing. It was the feeling of being made a fool of. I noticed she saw my worry about our relationship and my fervent prayers for a solution when it seemed all other options were exhausted. Throughout, she remained silent, letting me suffer in vain and repeatedly uttering her disparaging phrase. It was unpleasant to realize that I thought we were on the same page, working toward a common goal, but her silence deceived me. Reflecting on the situation, I admitted my guilt in letting doubts creep into my consciousness. I should have been more attentive to changes in her behavior and suspected she knew about our struggle. However, I treated these fears as paranoia. With a heavy heart, I firmly demanded that Leah leave my territory, making it clear that further intrusion would lead to legal consequences. That meeting marked the last time our paths crossed. I've endured mental anguish before, but the level of frustration and devastation this time surpassed anything I've experienced. I had hoped the pain and anger would fade after she finished her career, but it turned out I was still grappling with these emotions. Despite the desire for retribution, nothing could soften the emotional shock that now consumed me. Overcoming the consequences, I realized I had to find the strength because it turned out I had to solve problems alone. 5 years have passed, and I'm happily married. I have a wonderful and loving wife who gave birth to 2 beautiful and intelligent children. My dream of a happy family has come true, and I'm content. Leah entered 2 relationships, both unsuccessful, mostly seen as a toy rather than a wife and mother. Mutual friends informed me that Leah is now working in college, not as a teacher, but responsible for floor cleanliness. In short, she cleans the floors. This smart and beautiful woman chose such a life for herself, and I don't pity her. I'm Alex, a 34-year-old guy, and I've always believed in the importance of relationships. Lisa, my partner, is 32, and we've been together for 7 years. We met during an internship after college, and our connection was legendary among friends. We were the couple others admired for having it all together. Lisa, a vibrant senior marketing executive at a top tech firm, had to go on yearly retreats due to her job, and I never thought much about it. One year, my close friend Mark joined Lisa's company and was excited about his first retreat. Mark and I have been friends since high school, and I trusted him completely. A few days before the retreat, we met for drinks, and he expressed his excitement about being part of the company getaway. We joked about him being my inside man, keeping an eye on Lisa to ensure she didn't have too much fun without me. The retreat lasted 3 days. On the second day, Mark called me hesitantly, saying he saw Lisa spending a lot of time with her boss, Liam. Initially, I dismissed it as work-related, but Mark insisted they seemed too close, often disappearing for hours with a shared secrecy. Curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to surprise Lisa at the resort the next day, coordinating with Mark for updates. Approaching the private beach, I found Lisa and Liam sitting close, their hands intertwined, sharing a closeness moment. It hit me hard. I approached them, trying to keep my composure. Lisa's face turned pale, and Liam looked equally shocked. Without causing a scene, I asked Lisa to join me for a walk. The air was thick with tension as we walked in silence. Finally, Lisa spoke, emphasizing that nothing physical had happened, but admitting they had developed deep, emotional connections. The retreat ended, and so did our relationship. The trust was shattered, and although there was no physical infidelity, the emotional betrayal was just as painful. Months passed, Lisa moved out, and we both tried to heal. Our friends were shocked, and Mark felt guilty for sharing the news, but I was grateful. It was better to know the truth than to live in ignorance. As weeks turned into months, the pain lessened, replaced by a numb acceptance. I immersed myself in work and reconnected with old hobbies to fill the void. One evening, while cleaning a shared storage unit, I found a box of Lisa's old journals and letters. Out of curiosity or a need for closure, I decided to take a peek. Flipping through the pages, I discovered entries from our early days together, revealing hints of doubts and insecurities Lisa had never voiced. A specific entry grabbed my attention. It was from a time when Lisa and I briefly broke up in our 3rd year together. Lisa wrote about meeting someone during that period, someone she felt a deep connection with but decided not to pursue due to our reconciliation. The person she mentioned was Liam. The realization hit me strongly. Their connection wasn't recent. It had roots going back years. The emotional bond they shared during the retreat wasn't just a fleeting moment. It was a rekindling of past emotions. I experienced a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and confusion. Was our entire relationship a deception? Did she always have feelings for Liam? Why didn't she mention this before? I reached out to Mark, my pillar of support throughout this ordeal. Over a drink, I shared my discovery. Mark, always the voice of reason, suggested that perhaps Lisa herself hadn't fully understood her feelings for Liam until they reconnected at the retreat. He reminded me that relationships are intricate, and people often grapple with emotions they don't completely understand. But now I'm at a crossroads. Part of me wants to confront Lisa, seeking answers and closure. Another part wonders if it's better to leave the past behind and move forward. But remember, sometimes the past should remain buried. If you seek closure, confronting her might help. But if you're aiming to move on, it might be best to let it go. It's just challenging to decide. Do I dig deeper, risking opening old wounds? Or do I try to find peace with the unknown? What would you do in my shoes? Relationships are never clear-cut. They're a complex mix of emotions, decisions, and moments that shape us. The pain of betrayal, whether emotional or physical, leaves lasting scars that are difficult to heal.
Before all of this happened, I always believed in the value of structure and clear boundaries in relationships. Throughout my life, I've prioritized stability and being able to predict outcomes, especially with those closest to me. This mindset influenced how I navigated friendships, my career, and most importantly, my marriage. I never imagined that I'd find myself here today, facing decisions I never thought I'd have to make. Life, as I've learned, often throws unexpected challenges, and we have no choice but to face them head-on. Lorna and I seemed like the perfect couple, or at least that's what I thought. We shared dreams of building a future, raising a family, and growing old together. But in recent months, things began to change, and I started to feel the weight of unspoken tension. It started with little things, a lack of connection, subtle shifts in her behavior. At first, I blamed stress or the natural ups and downs of marriage. Little did I know these small signs were leading to something much bigger and far more destructive. I'm Dave, and instead of giving you a physical description, I'd rather explain my beliefs. By sharing these values, you'll get a sense of who I am. Despite everything that's just happened, I want to make it clear that I'm not a villain. A truly evil person would enjoy what I've done. I didn't. It was simply something I had to do, required by my principles. My character is built on respect, for myself and for others. I offer that respect to everyone unless they give me a reason not to. When that line is crossed, I walk away and never look back. I also believe in always striving to be the best version of yourself, and I hold others to that same standard. Sure, some will achieve more than others, but as long as you try your best, I'll respect you. Disrespect me once, though, and you better watch out. After respect, I value loyalty and trust the most. I will never lie or deceive those I respect. I'm loyal to a fault, but only to those who deserve it. Notice the careful if. Once you lose my trust, loyalty and respect are gone too. I strongly believe in justice. Good things should happen to good people and bad things to bad people. I'm also old-fashioned. If you wrong me, you don't need to worry about lawsuits, but you'd better be careful in dark alleys. If I make a deal with a handshake and it falls through, check the obituaries. My name will be there. I see myself as methodical, romantic, and loving. I also firmly believe in gender equality. Not just in words, but in the conviction that your gender makes no difference in how I treat or what I expect from you. That might explain why I did what I did. Did I mention I'm methodical? Let me prove it by starting from the beginning. My suggestion that my wife of 7 years cut ties with her friend Jenny went ignored. Jenny had moved down the street last year. Her husband, Bill, is a shift worker I've only met a couple of times. Something about Jenny rubs me the wrong way. I can't put my finger on it, but I have a gut feeling about her. Still, I respect that it's Lorna's choice. She doesn't have many friends, but she's fiercely loyal to the ones she does. Jenny doesn't like me, and it's obvious she's trying to influence Lorna. More than once, I've walked in on them, and their conversation immediately stopped. I began to realize something was wrong with our marriage. Small things started to pile up. Not being able to reach Lorna on her days off and her evasive answers were one issue. Her inability to make eye contact with me lately was another. I've always believed that the eyes are windows to the soul, and sunglasses are the blinds. The biggest sign was our sex life, which went from twice a week to nothing at all over the last 4 weeks. Even stranger was that sometimes when I initiated closeness, she seemed willing at first, but then shut down. It was like her eyes turned off. I asked many times if something was wrong, but she insisted there wasn't. Last week, out of frustration, I suggested counseling. Lorna just turned away and cried. When she stopped, it looked like she wanted to say something, but then her walls went up again. The most confusing part was how inconsistent her behavior was with someone trying to get pregnant. Unless, damn, a terrible thought crossed my mind. What if she'd given up on me as the seed donor and was seeing other men? It would explain why she wasn't as sexually frustrated as I was and why she was avoiding me. Guilt. But that didn't make sense. We'd only been trying for 2 months before she cut me off. Well, if she wasn't going to admit to cheating, I'd have to catch her the old-fashioned way. Lorna managed our family's finances since she had the most free time. I had to be cautious to avoid any noticeable, unexplainable expenses showing up on our statements, so I kept my surveillance low cost. I paid cash for 2 small voice recorders that transmitted to a base station. It seemed like a good first step. If they didn't capture anything useful, I could always upgrade later and use a GPS tracker. I placed one recorder in the kitchen, which would cover both the kitchen and the lounge, and the other in our bedroom. I hid the receiver in the ceiling, a place Lorna avoided due to her fear of spiders. About a week later, the only relevant conversation I picked up left me both confused and somewhat relieved. It didn't sound like Lorna was cheating, but I still had no idea what was going on. The conversation took place in the kitchen on one of Lorna's days off. "So, Lorna, what did you think of that?" Jenny asked. "I don't know, Jenny. It was intense, but are you sure Bill likes it?" "He didn't exactly look like he was enjoying it," Lorna replied. "I've told you before, he doesn't really enjoy it in the moment. But afterward, he knows he's in for a week of incredible sex. The only time I've seen him upset was when I misjudged my timing, and my period started that night. He missed out and sulked for a whole week. I still don't get it, Jen. How can you respect Bill if he puts up with that?" "Oh, girl, today was nothing. You should see what we usually do. I took it easy on Bill since it was only the second time you were there watching. You wouldn't believe the thrill I get when I go up to Bill, tied to his chair with his little tool caged, and give him his choice for the day." "What choice?" Lorna asked, clearly intrigued. "It's different each time. I'll ask Bill if we can do something different next time you're around." "Crap, I've got to go. Bill's still tied up." Shortly after, the bedroom recorder picked up a buzzing sound, followed by Lorna having multiple screaming peaks, clearly showing that whatever she had witnessed with Jenny and Bill had turned her on. Her Zex toy had gotten quite a workout. While it was clear Lorna had been excited by something she saw, I couldn't quite figure it out. The conversation seemed to suggest, no, surely no man would go along with that. Naive of me, right? I didn't understand where all of this was headed, so I decided to wait. I only had to wait a week for the next incident, again on Lorna's day off, and once more in the kitchen. Yeah, I asked Bill if I could do the second hand, or straight from the source thing again, but he put his foot down. He said not while you're around. The only reason he even let you be there in the first place was because he thought he might have a shot with you, Jenny explained. Well, that's never happening. For God's sake, don't tell him that. If you burst that bubble, your spectator privileges are gone. Okay. So, how was the last week with Bill? Lorna asked. As great as ever. After I got home from here, I untied him and he did his usual cleanup. Then we screwed till supper. The Zex is always fantastic, but the week after is almost as good. It's like honeymoon Zex all over again. There was a pause in the conversation as the sound of a kettle boiling could be heard. So how are things with Dave going? The poor guy must be dying. It's been 6 weeks now, Jenny asked. It's getting harder and harder to turn him down. If it wasn't for Mother's little helper, I would have exploded by now. You know, Zex toys. They feel great, but they leave you feeling kinda unfulfilled. I know what you mean, but hang in there. How about telling him you're cutting him off to build up his potency? That might buy you more time. Another few weeks and Dave will agree to anything. Maybe next week you could go with Bill and pretend he's Dave. It won't be the same, but at least you'll get what you need and buy more time. No way, Jen. I would never cheat on Dave. I love him too much to disrespect him like that. Plus, there's the prenup I told you about. If Dave ever found out I cheated, I'd be gone in a heartbeat. I'm 39, Jen. If I don't have kids now, I never will. I paused the recording. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Lorna. I especially appreciated the comment about respect, though it seems we have different ideas on what constitutes disrespect. Yes, it's wise of you to remember the prenup. The cheating party walks away with nothing. Now, I could see where this was likely headed, and I made a mental note to set aside some time to decide how far I'd let things go. I resumed listening to the recording. I still don't know. As aroused as Dave must be, I just can't see him going along with this. I'm thinking of backing out. I can't risk losing him, not for some extramarital stuff. It's already hard enough looking him in the eyes and seeing seed in them. It just feels wrong, Lorna said. Haven't you heard a word I've said? This isn't just about extramarital Zex. It's the high you get from the control. Having him sit there helpless and desperate, knowing he'll do anything you want just to keep you. There's nothing like watching your husband see you with another man to trigger that primal competition in the male. Deep down, they all want to be dominated. Bill did it. My ex did it. They all protest for a while, but once they're Fragile pride is soothed. They run to the chair every time, Jenny explained. No, Jin, I've made up my mind. I don't want to risk my future happiness. It's not worth it. Dave mentioned counseling again this week. What risk? There is no risk, Lorna. Let him stew a little longer to maximize your chances, then hit him with it. You're not cheating, so he has no reason to leave, and the prenup isn't triggered. Worst case scenario? He says no, and you've lost nothing. He won't want a divorce where he loses the house, half his money, and has to pay alimony. So no risk, and the possibility of amazing Zex for as long as you want. You can't lose, girl. Okay, Jin, I'll think about it. Well, make up your mind soon, or your watching days are over. The Zex toy got more use that afternoon. I was fed up with the situation. Time to turn up the pressure. I still wasn't sure how I'd react when their little game reached its climax, but I was increasingly certain it would. Jenny was offering Lorna something no single man could compete with. I'll admit the idea was completely foreign to me at first. But maybe watching Lorna get screwed in front of me could be interesting. It was time to force a decision. When Lorna came to bed, I expressed my desire, but got the expected rejection. Lorna, have you ever heard of conjugal rights? I asked. No, what are they? They're the rights of a husband to have sex with his wife. Well, I'm claiming anti-conjugal rights. The wife's right to say no. I stayed quiet for a bit, carefully choosing my next words. Well, if you keep turning me down, won't tell me why, and refuse counseling, will you give me permission to meet my needs outside the marriage? There was an explosion from her side of the bed. What? No way! There's no way you're getting it outside this house. I should be enough for you. Lorna stopped as she realized the contradiction in her own words. A look of pain, anger, and confusion crossed her face. She jumped out of bed and stormed out of the room. I need to talk to Jenny, she muttered as she left. I stayed in bed as she went to the living area, hearing her mumble on the kitchen phone. About half an hour later, she tiptoed back into the bedroom, assuming I was asleep. She slipped quietly into bed beside me. I gave her 5 minutes to settle in. Lorna, I don't know what kind of nonsense Jenny is feeding you, but can't you see how destructive it is? I asked softly. She's my friend. Well, I really think you should reconsider that friendship before it destroys what's left of our marriage. I don't know exactly what she's filling your head with, but anyone can see it's not going to lead to anything good. The next morning, I stayed in bed until Lorna left for work. When she was gone, I got the ladder and retrieved the kitchen recorder from the ceiling. It had picked up the late-night phone call, or at least Lorna's side of it. She sounded desperate, recounting our conversation from earlier. I had hoped she might pull out of this madness. To say I was disappointed by the outcome is an understatement. After Lorna's tearful rant, there was a long pause. Then she said, Jin, are you sure about what you said the other day? Are all men like Bill? If you push them hard enough, will they actually enjoy being dominated? More silence. Well, as you said, I have nothing to lose. Watching you and Bill turns me on so much. Yes, I'll do it, but I can't drag this out much longer. Can we speed up the plan? More silence. All right, I'll come over tomorrow night and we'll discuss tactics. Bye. That day, the atmosphere in the Smith household was tense. After dinner, Lorna told me she was going to Jenny's. Are you going to break it off with her like I suggested? I asked. No, Dave. I grabbed her and made her look me in the eyes. Please, Lorna. Without another word, she pulled away from me and left. I snuck over to Jenny's house, thinking about how powerful lust can be. Since it was dark, I circled the house, but couldn't find a spot where I could see or hear what was happening inside. For the next stage of this drama, I'd be flying blind. I was fast asleep when my loving wife returned the next day. Once again, I stayed in bed until Lorna left for work. This time, I went straight to Jenny's house. Since Lorna had already mentioned Jenny in the context of our marriage issues, I figured this visit wouldn't give too much away. Jenny opened the door, still in her robe. She wanted to get dressed, but I told her my message wouldn't take long. I never even stepped off the porch. Jenny, I know you and Lorna are up to something. I'm guessing you're trying to convince her to do something she doesn't really want to. I also bet you think there's no risk for you. You don't know me well, but let me tell you, I'm not one to forgive and forget. I hold grudges. For your own sake, I suggest you use your persuasive powers to talk her out of this instead of into it. At that point, she slammed the door in my face. Later that night, after another quiet dinner, Lorna went back to Jenny's house. I followed her again, and this time the kitchen window was slightly open, and I could hear parts of their conversation. They were discussing my visit earlier. No, this is great news, Lorna. Jenny said. "This proves he thinks I'm trying to get you to cheat. So, when you hit him with the plan, he'll be off balance. Plus, he'll be so relieved that you're not cheating, he'll go along with whatever we suggest." Just then, I accidentally knocked over a small plant, causing a scene. I quickly made a run for it. Again, I was asleep when Lorna returned. The next evening, I came home to the smell of a gourmet meal. Lorna had gone all out, focusing on both taste and presentation. Here we go, I thought. She kept up her cheerful small talk all night, but her nervous glances betrayed her. I waited for her to bring up what was really on her mind. Bedtime came with no confrontation. To apply some pressure, I snuggled close and touched her bosoms. She actually responded for about 30 seconds before pulling away. I casually asked, "Have I done something wrong? Lorna, I really think we should consider counseling again." As expected, she got angry. The next morning, I decided to play dirty. I took her Zex toy from the bathroom and removed the spring from the battery compartment. If we were playing the blue balls game, 2 could participate. The following 2 nights were the same old routine. When I returned from golfing, Jenny was at our house, but she left in a hurry. It was Saturday night, and I used the excuse of needing to wake up early for church to head to bed by 9:30. Lorna followed shortly after. Hoping she'd be more open in the dark, I turned the light off immediately. Once we were settled, I asked, "Okay, Lorna, what's on your mind?" She didn't say anything, so I continued. "I'm guessing there's something you're struggling to tell me. You've cut me off from Zex for almost 2 months now, so I assume it's something sexual. Are you cheating on me? Are you trying to work up the courage to confess?" "No, Dave, how could you think that? I love you and would never do anything like that," she exploded. "Then please tell me what's going on before I decide to leave. Or worse, the next time a woman propositions me." That got her attention. "What women? When?" "All the time at work. I'm well off in shape and with all modesty, not bad looking. I doubt a week goes by without some girl flirting with me." "All right, Dave, give me a minute and I'll tell you what's on my mind," she said, clearly nervous. After about 5 minutes, she finally spoke. "Like I said, Dave, I've never cheated on you and wouldn't want to, but there's something I'd like to try." More silence. "I know you don't like her, but Jenny's been telling me about what she and Bill do in the bedroom. It sounds way more exciting than what we do." "Wait a minute," I interrupted. "You've never complained about our Zex life in 8 years. "I know, Dave, you've always been a great and considerate lover. I was happy with what we had, but after Jenny described what they do, she said it's 10 times better than anything we've done. I just want to try it once or twice before we settle down as parents." "Are you sure she's not exaggerating? Could she be misleading you?" I asked, suspicious. "No, when I heard her talk about it, it was obvious from her excitement that she really loves it." I decided to let her little slip at the start of her response go without comment. "So, dear, what exactly do you and Jenny have in mind for me?" I asked, unsure I really wanted to know the answer. "Well, it's not too bad, Dave. Jenny has Zex with other men in front of Bill," Lorna blurted out. "It's not about love, it's just casual Zex. It's not cheating since Bill is there watching." "So you're asking for a menage a trois?" I clarified. "No, Dave. You wouldn't get to have Zex with me. Only the other guy would. Jenny calls it betraying. It's like you're giving me as a gift to another man, and I'm giving you the gift of watching. I enjoy it while you watch, and then afterward, you reclaim me by making love to me. Jenny says that's the best part for Bill, too. Afterward, they screw for a week straight." "We haven't done that since our honeymoon," I noted dryly. "Jenny says if you're uncomfortable watching, the first few times you could leave the house while I do it here. She insists it's important to do it in our bed. She says it shows your love for me by allowing another man into your space. Jenny thinks it's better if you stay, though. She says if you watch, you'll see it's just Zex, but if you leave, you'll wonder if the guy was better or if I might fall for him." After that monologue, Lorna fell silent. "Don't worry, Lorna. If we do this, and it's a big if, you understand, I'll be there." I took a deep breath before continuing. "One question, though. You've explained how I show my love by giving you as a gift, but how and when do you show your love for me?" "Every time, silly. Every time I come back to you, I'm showing you that you're my main man, my one and only love. Love by sloppy seconds, huh? Sorry, Dave, I don't get what you mean." "Don't worry about it, dear. But I've got to say, my first impression isn't great. If we're so incompatible and I don't satisfy you enough, why not try an open marriage? Or better yet, we could bring another woman into bed and both enjoy her," I half joked, but was also half serious. No, Dave. The thought of you with another woman makes me sick. It's just not natural. It's not going to happen. I pushed further. Okay, how about bringing in another woman, but I won't touch her. I'll just watch while you two enjoy yourselves. Gross, Dave. I tried that once in college, and that was enough for me. Have you thought about all the potential outcomes of this? I could lose respect for you. You could lose respect for me. Or I might feel inadequate watching you with someone better. No one could be a better lover than you, Dave. And besides, Jenny has gone through all the possible outcomes and says we've got nothing to lose. Screw Jenny, I muttered under my breath. Lorna, have you really thought about all the possible ramifications? Yes, Dave, I have, and I really want to try it. Can we? She asked, grabbing my arm and pleading with her eyes. Then she grabbed my groin through my boxers, and predictably, my body reacted. See? Little Percy here is clearly on board with my plan. I sighed, frustrated, but all too aware of my own desires. Little Percy hasn't seen any action for almost 2 months. He has no conscience and would happily screw a rattlesnake right now. Please, Dave, won't you at least think about it? She asked sweetly. Okay, Lorna, there's no injury in thinking about it. Now, can we make love? No, Dave, I don't think so, she replied, biting her lip. Why the hell not? I asked, genuinely confused and starting to get angry. Think of it as an incentive to think faster, she said, as if it wasn't emotional blackmail. You do realize that's emotional blackmail, right? Well, I don't agree. I just want to get this out of my system and move on to having kids. My new golden rule: whoever has the gold makes the rules. I groaned inwardly and said, fine, I'll think about it. That week when I went to sabotage her Zex toy again, I noticed a new addition to her toy collection, a Johnson cage. Shame on you, Lorna. You forgot to mention that part. I lasted another 11 days. I'm only human. It was a Wednesday night and we were in bed again. Okay, Lorna, you win. We'll do it your way. But don't blame me if things go south. I urge you to consider all the consequences. Really? Thanks, Dave. I'm sure it'll be a great experience for both of us. Can we do it Friday? Sure, dear. On one condition: you fulfill your wifely duties and hammer me into the mattress right now. Without hesitation, Lorna ripped off my boxers and hers, mounted me, but then suddenly stopped. I could sense her hesitation. There's something I forgot to mention, she said. Oh? And what's that, Lorna? I asked, already sensing where this was headed. Jenny says it's better for both of us if you're like tied to a chair while you watch. Tied to a chair? I repeated, incredulous. She says it makes the guy feel more secure that you won't attack him, and it gives me a sense of control. I blinked, trying to process this. You've got to be kidding me. But Lorna wasn't done. Jenny also says it's good if, while we're doing it, we call you names, like chicken or something. I'm not sure why, but Jenny says it really pushes her over the edge. I'm sure you want this to be a perfect experience for me, right? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She resumed her motions, trying to distract me, but I wasn't letting this go. I grabbed her hips and stopped her. Lorna, can we ease into this, please? I'm not ready to give up all control. I can't accept being tied to a chair, but I'll pretend. I'll even put my hands behind my back if it makes you happy. But let's stop there for now. She hesitated, then nodded, realizing she was pushing too hard. Okay, that'll give you the chance to use a video camera. A video camera, Dave? She asked, intrigued. Well, since we'll only do this for a short time and one of us might not like it, I thought we could record it to relive the experience. Lorna thought about it for a moment. Okay, I'll ask Jenny if that's okay. No, Lorna. Don't ask Jenny anything. It's time you made your own decisions. Take responsibility for what you want. She blinked again, as if the idea was new to her, then slowly nodded. Okay, Dave, your call. We won't tie you up, and it would be great to have a video record of the first time you show your love for me this way. Something else was bothering me. Lorna, I'm not thrilled with your idea of trash talk. I think I'll already be uncomfortable with you two, acknowledging that I'm in the room. Can you just pretend I'm not there? Talk among yourselves, call me names if you want, but act like I'm not part of it. If it feels like you're talking directly to me, it would be humiliating. Come on, Lorna. I doubt I could feel more humiliated unless you offered him your maid bum. No, Dave, no one has ever been there, she responded. Even my strength wavered. Unable to stop Lorna from resuming, I let her continue. I'm not especially proud of my stamina that time, but considering the 2 months of blue ball torture, I had an excuse. In my defense, Lorna got off before me, thanks to Zex toy sabotage. The second and third rounds were more brag-worthy, but I was exhausted the next day. The following evening, when I returned home, Jenny was visiting. She looked as proud as if she'd just given birth to triplets. "Well done, Dave. You won't regret this. It's the start of a new life for you guys." I pretended not to notice the sharp look Lorna gave her. She had sold this to me as a short-term thing. "So, Jenny, what's the next step?" "Well, Dave, I usually go across town, somewhere I won't be recognized. I find random guys, tell them what I want, and if they agree, we head to the bathroom for an audition." "Audition?" "You know, check their size, just to make sure they're worth it. I don't want to go through all that trouble and end up with a guy who's got nothing going on down there. You want the whole experience to be worthwhile. Once I found the right guy, I either bring him home or tell him to come over the next day." "No way, Jenny. If Lorna touched another guy like that, I'd consider it cheating. How about you just pick the first guy who says yes and bring him home?" "Okay, Dave, you're in charge for now, so we'll do it your way. Good night." After Jenny left, I could tell Lorna still had something on her mind. "What's up, Lorna?" Well, Jenny didn't want to ask directly, but she was wondering if it's okay if she comes over and watches. "No, Lorna, that's not happening. It's bad enough that I'll be sitting there while you screw some stranger and talk trash about me. I don't want her there too." "Sorry, honey, I know she's done a lot to help, but I understand. You can show her the video later if you want. Now, how about we go upstairs and get some practice in?" Lorna agreed, and we headed upstairs. While undressing, I remembered a question I had on the way home. "By the way, who's buying the rubbers, you or me?" Jenny says we can't use rubbers," Lorna said hesitantly. "What the hell, Lorna? You went off the pill 4 months ago," I replied, frustrated. "Yes, but I'm not fertile for another 2 weeks," she explained. "Why does Jenny say no rubbers?" I asked, still confused. "She says it's more, exciting for you if you see me doing it bareback," Lorna continued. "She claims it drives husbands to screw their wives immediately after to make sure their seed dominates the other guys. At first, I was worried about diseases, but the more I thought about it, well, it's kind of a hot thought. I can get tested regularly if it bothers you." "No way, there are too many dangerous diseases out there. We're not risking it," I said firmly. "Okay, fine. Now, how about that lovin' we came up here for?" Lorna asked, trying to change the subject. "I'm not in the mood anymore," I replied, annoyed. All right, I give in. No rubbers," she relented. "Gee, thanks. Speaking of which, could you wear one tonight or pull out? I want to be fresh for tomorrow," Lorna added. "Forget it," I said, shaking my head. "All right, good night," Lorna said, ending the conversation. Lorna actually took Friday off work. She was so excited. By the time I got home, the house was spotless, and the bedroom was set up. Extra pillows, lights dimmed, bedside lamp angled like a spotlight. Everything. Lorna was practically bouncing with excitement. She was dressed to eliminated by the time Jenny arrived to take her out. I reminded them that with an hour's travel time, I expected them back in 90 minutes. They didn't disappoint too much, returning 96 minutes later with Lorna's chosen guy. I hadn't been idle while waiting. The anticipation made time drag on, to the point where I checked if the clock had stopped. Jenny was nowhere in sight. I was introduced to Jeremy, a good-looking guy about 10 years younger than Lorna and me. He seemed nervous, but relaxed a bit after I assured him I was cool with everything and looking forward to Lorna living out her fantasy. I explained the ground rules and assured him I wouldn't be a threat, even though I was only pretending to be tied to the chair. I also told him that Lorna thought the experience would be better if he and she belittled me with their words, but as if I weren't really there. Jeremy agreed and was fine with me recording the event. He even surprised me by asking for a copy of the video. Throughout all this, Lorna was nearly vibrating with excitement, bouncing from foot to foot, thighs rubbing together. I got hard imagining her underwear drenched from anticipation. With the preliminaries done, I went upstairs to the bedroom and sat in my carefully positioned chair. Since I didn't officially know about the birdcage, I didn't bother with it. I stripped down, knowing that's what Lorna wanted, and not wanting to interrupt by waiting for her to ask. The chair was next to the door with a clear view of the bed. After turning on the camera and setting it on the arm of the chair, I put my arms behind my back and waited with barely contained excitement. Everything I had imagined over the past 2 weeks was about to come true. I didn't have to wait long. Barely a minute later, Jeremy and Lorna entered, tearing each other's clothes off. When his underwear came off, I noticed with relief that he was about 2 inches shorter than me, and much thinner. Lorna couldn't hide the disappointment on her face when she saw it. Once they were both unclothed, Jeremy wasted no time, roughly pushing her to her knees. He clearly had experience because, after a few thrusts, he placed one hand over hers and the other on the back of her head, With a flick, he removed her hand from his tool, then pushed her onto her back on the bed and mounted her. The disappointment on Lorna's face returned when she realized he was skipping foreplay. She always loved being pleased with mouth before penetration. But Jeremy didn't waste a second, pounding into her, and within 2 minutes, he was grunting in climax. There was barely enough time for some of the expected trash talk. "Come on, baby, let me take you places your husband never has. What's it feel like to be with a real man for a change?" "Oh, baby, make love to me. My husband doesn't satisfy me anymore." That was all there was time for, as Jeremy quickly finished with a loud series of grunts. He immediately rolled off her. Despite her clear disappointment, Lorna managed to keep up appearances. Throughout the encounter, I noticed her frequently glancing in my direction, particularly at the camera on the arm of my chair. The flashing red light was impossible to miss. I wasn't sure if her performance was more for me or for the camera, but one thing was clear. This was about humiliating me. With a voice thick with lust, she almost groaned, "You can thank my husband for this." I would have never thought of it if he hadn't planted the idea in my head. "Come on, lover. Take me places my husband never has." Jeremy, impatient and eager, lined himself up with her and with one mighty thrust entered her from behind. Lorna screamed in pain, misinterpreting it as pleasure or simply not caring in the heat of the moment. Jeremy didn't hesitate, plowing into her relentlessly. Lorna tried to push him away, but she couldn't overpower him. After about half a minute, she gave in and let him take control. Later, when I reviewed the video, I saw Lorna turn toward me, or at least where I had been, with pleading eyes. She mouthed, "Please help me, Dave." It hurts. But I was gone. I couldn't watch anymore. I was standing outside the bedroom door, trying to block out her cries and wishing for it to end. Every instinct told me to protect her, but I reminded myself that she hadn't been my mate for weeks. I timed my re-entry carefully. By the sound of things, Jeremy was nearing his second climax. I dressed in my work suit rather than the casual clothes I had worn earlier and, following my mental script, rushed back into the room just as Jeremy was finishing. Channeling my best Russell Crowe, I shouted, "Lorna, what the hell is this? Who is this guy? Hey, craphead, get out of my house." The video later confirmed the chaos that followed. Jeremy's expression shifted from bliss to confusion to fear. He pulled out of Lorna, leapt off the bed, and grabbed his clothes, nearly breaking the sound barrier as he fled the room. Lorna's relief was short-lived, and her face cycled through emotions before settling on confusion. Torn between following Jeremy and confronting Lorna, I snarled at her, "Stay here, you cheating!" I caught up with Jeremy downstairs as he was hurriedly dressing, his face still full of fear. I watched him calmly as he finished, then casually approached and grabbed him by the throat, pushing him against the wall. I waited until he realized he could still breathe. He looked up at me, the fear in his eyes deepening into pure terror. Holding him pinned with one hand, I pulled out his wallet with the other, opened it, and read his name and address aloud deliberately. Once I knew I had his full attention, I hissed, "Let this be a lesson, son. Never mess with married women. I owe you a beating, but I'm feeling generous. Lorna might ask you to testify in court someday. Here's your story. She picked you up at a bar, you followed her here, and you were screwing her when her husband came home unexpectedly and threw you out. Now, repeat that back to me." It only took him 3 tries to get it right. "All right, I'm not a cruel man. Your sentence is suspended for 7 years. Say anything else during that time, and I promise you'll feel a beating that'll last 14. I let him go, and to my surprise, he didn't immediately run. I shook his hand. "Pleasure doing business, Jeremy." His confused expression was almost comical as he darted to the door, leaving so fast it was like he broke the sound barrier. A few moments later, I heard tires screeching down the road. I casually went back upstairs to the bedroom, where Lorna still lay on the bed, unmoving. Out of respect for our 8-year relationship, I figured I owed her an explanation. "For the record, Lorna, do you realize that in all of this, you never once asked my opinion? Not once in the past 2 days did you ask how I felt about your little scheme. If you had, I hope I would have been honest and told you I found the idea repulsive. I know Jenny convinced you that humiliating me was the goal. But when you look back on this, you gotta ask yourself, who really ended up humiliated here?" I watched as my words sank in, her expression shifting to stunned, and then tears welled up in her eyes. I remained silent for several minutes, letting her process everything. Eventually, her face showed confusion. "What's this really been about, Dave?" "Well, once I realized our marriage was beyond saving, I pretended to go along with your plan to betray me. Given everything you've done, I decided you deserved to leave this marriage with nothing. My problem was figuring out how to make it look like you broke your vows and trigger the infidelity clause in our prenup. But then I realized I didn't need to do anything. You do it yourself. All I had to do was let your plan play out and record it on camera. I nodded toward the camera still resting on the arm of the chair. I planted the idea of doing it from behind to make the footage as incriminating as possible. The blowjob? That was just a bonus. I almost didn't stay tonight, but decided I had to witness your attempt to destroy me. Now, I'm pretty sure my heart's hardened enough to leave you with nothing, without a chance of me changing my mind. You know what a softie I can be. Lorna's eyes darted between me and the camera as she realized what it represented. I didn't expect her sudden move. She lunged for the camera, grabbed it by the strap, and bolted for the bathroom. Moments later, I heard the toilet flush. I knew the SIM card was gone. I patted my pocket, reassured that I still had the original SIM, the one with Jeremy's permission to be filmed. When Lorna came out of the bathroom, I didn't even look at her. I was too busy retrieving the second camera I'd hidden on the bookshelf. I had put a lot of thought into its placement, the only spot in the room that captured the entire bed but not the chair or door. Reflecting on recent events, I wondered if the participants had addressed the chair's occupant directly, maybe twice. I predicted some of the audio would be compromised, but I was already thinking about at what point the batteries might have conveniently died. I hoped no one would probe too deeply to discover it was plugged into the mains. As Lorna watched me retrieve the second camera, she collapsed in defeat. I felt the need to explain. For the record, I always treated you with respect and affection, up until you started blackmailing me with Jenny's help. I would have gladly had kids with you and lived happily ever after. I don't know when exactly you went off the rails, but you did. Here's a tip for your next marriage. Don't plot with your friend in a place where you can be overheard by a $249.95 listening device. I then picked up an envelope from the same shelf where the camera had been and handed it to her. She absent-mindedly opened the flap and pulled out the divorce papers. After a minute of her staring blankly at them, I interrupted her. Yes, Lorna, our marriage is over. I'll leave for the night. When I return, I expect you to be gone. Thank you for 8 mostly happy years, but I hit my breaking point about 3 weeks ago. You can take all your clothes and jewelry, just don't be here when I get back. I warned her not to fight the divorce or the terms. Otherwise, your parents, friends, and fellow church members will all receive a copy of the video. Yes, the one of you puking, being sodomized, and trash-talking me. Don't think little Jeremy will back you up in court. He's going to protect himself. Lorna looked devastated. I could barely hear her when she muttered, But we already decorated the nursery. Something inside me snapped at that. My dreams of a happy family were shattered too. How selfish had she become? Maybe you should take your next husband's advice and choose your friends more wisely. Give my regards to Jenny. I certainly will. With that, I walked out of the room, down the stairs, and out the front door, thinking, note to self, find a saner, smarter wife next time. Could I have just said no when Lorna first suggested turning me into a betrayed man? No. The drive was too strong in her. It would have come out eventually in some way or another. Plus, half the insult was in her even asking, and no one likes being blackmailed. Returning to my plan, there was still one loose end, the conniving witch who started all of this. I didn't need to look through the slightly open bedroom curtain to know where she'd be. Jenny wouldn't be able to resist watching my humiliation. That was her payoff, after all, the reward for her months of manipulation. Grabbing the pickaxe handle I'd conveniently left by the front door, I began circling the house. She wasn't at the bedroom window as I'd expected, but hidden in the bushes near the door, waiting for me to leave so she could comfort Lorna. When I saw her, she looked at the weapon in my hand and understood instantly. She realized the camera she held was history, as were her watch and rings if I made it look like a mugging. We locked eyes in the dark, and I saw the moment she understood her only option was to promise silence, unless I eliminated her. After a moment of considering my alibi, I stepped forward. Hi, I'm Dave. I believe in the equality of the Zexes, equal pay, equal respect, and equal accountability for evil acts. I value respect, trust, and honesty above all else. Violate any one of those and I cut you off. Violate all 3 and I cut you down. I'm not an evil man. An evil man would have enjoyed what I just did. But I didn't. I never said I wasn't satisfied, though. Given the tone and style of the narrative you shared, I would write an after-story or epilogue that maintains the reflective and intense nature of Dave's journey. Here's an extended after-story that builds on the existing themes of control, betrayal, and moving forward. As I walked away from the house that had once been the foundation of my life, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was no satisfaction, only the hollow feeling that comes from the destruction of something I had once held so dear. It wasn't the kind of ending I had ever imagined for myself or for Lorna. Yet, here I was, leaving behind a marriage that had been slowly crumbling from within. The truth, once it surfaced, had been far more disturbing than I could have anticipated. But now, the weight of it was gone, lifted off my shoulders. I hadn't planned for it to end like this. In fact, I'd spent weeks hoping, maybe even praying, that there could be some salvaging of what we once had, that the love we built would somehow rise above this mess. But no amount of wishing could undo the damage caused by the manipulation, the deceit, and the betrayal. The seeds of destruction had been planted long before I ever picked up that first voice recorder. As I drove away from the neighborhood for the last time, I caught a glimpse of Jenny's house in my rearview mirror. A part of me wanted to return, to confront her, to make her pay for what she had done, not just to my marriage, but to my peace of mind. She had been a corrosive force from the start, undermining everything with her influence over Lorna. But now, it wasn't worth it. I had extracted what I needed, my freedom, and nothing she could do now would affect me. I was finished with both of them. The house felt smaller as I left it behind, like the memories I had once cherished there had shrunk in significance. Where we had planned a future, where we had spoken about children, all of it felt like a distant dream, a life that no longer belonged to me. I wasn't sad, at least not anymore. No, the sadness had been replaced by something else. Clarity. And with clarity came resolve. In the weeks to come, there would be lawyers, paperwork, and division of assets. But what mattered most was that I had the upper hand. The evidence I had collected, while painful to acquire, was undeniable. I would walk away with everything: the house, the savings, my dignity, and Lorna would be left to pick up the pieces of a life she had single-handedly torn apart. Jenny would go back to her games, maybe find someone else to manipulate, but she'd know I was watching. She'd know that I wouldn't hesitate to strike if she ever came near me again. As for Lorna, I imagined her sitting in the wreckage of our shared past, contemplating where it all went wrong. Maybe she'd finally understand the depth of what she had lost, but by then, it wouldn't matter. By then, I would have moved on, found new purpose, and rebuilt my life with someone who could offer the loyalty and respect I had always valued. Starting over wouldn't be easy, I knew that. Trust would be hard to come by, and the scars of betrayal don't heal overnight. But I still believed in those core values: respect, loyalty, trust, things that had defined me long before this marriage and would continue to define me after. I wouldn't let this break me. If anything, it had made me stronger, sharper. I had learned that sometimes walking away is the only way to win. That night, as I sat alone in a hotel room far from the home I had known for the past 8 years, I felt the first stirrings of something new. Hope. Not the naive kind that believes everything will magically work out, but the kind that comes from knowing that I'd survived the worst of it. I had been tested, my principles had been challenged, and in the end, I had come out with my integrity intact. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I looked forward to it. There would be no more deceit, no more lies, no more games. I would build something real, something that would last, and this time I would choose more wisely.